The rancher's fingers trembled on the knot of her belt. "Don't," the Apache woman whispered, eyes wide with fear, but the fabric loosened anyway, and the breath left his chest. What secret could freeze even a hardened man in his own barn? The barn smelled of dust, blood, and horse sweat. A single shaft of light cut through the slats, falling across her face. She sat slumped against the rough boards, dress torn, breath shallow. Her wrists trembled as if every nerve had fought too long. "Don't touch it," she whispered again, clutching her waist. The rancher crouched, hat slipping back. "You're bleeding." "I said don't." Her voice cracked, not with defiance but with dread. His hand hovered, calloused fingers stained with dust. "If I don't, you'll die." Her eyes darted to the barn doors, to shadows beyond them. "Better me than them finding out." A muffled thud came from outside, hooves shifting, a wagon wheel creaking. The rancher froze. "Who's out there?" She shut her eyes tight. "No one who'll help." The rancher set his jaw, tugged at the knot. The belt slackened, the fabric parting. Her hands flew to stop him, weak but desperate. "Please!" He brushed them aside, voice low. "Hush, I've stitched worse wounds." The cloth fell loose. What he saw made him stop cold. Not just blood. Bandages, old and stained, wrapped in a pattern he knew too well. The kind soldiers used for hidden breaks, not accidents. And beneath them, carved into her skin, a mark, raw and deliberate. His breath caught. "Who did this to you?" Her eyes filled, but no tears fell. "You don't want to know." The barn door rattled suddenly, iron latch clinking. Both of them flinched. "Stay quiet," the rancher hissed. He pushed her gently behind a stack of hay, covering her with his coat. Boots scraped outside. A voice, harsh, carried through the wood. "We know she's in there." The rancher's blood iced. He gripped the handle of his knife, every muscle taut. Inside, the woman's whisper shook. "I told you, if they find out, you'll hang beside me." The latch lifted once, paused, dropped. The rancher's heartbeat hammered, waiting for the next sound. The barn stands on the edge of silence, until the latch lifts again, harder this time, as if someone means to force their way inside. The latch lifted. Metal scraped wood. Silence pressed. "Don't move," the rancher whispered. She clutched his coat tighter. "If they see the mark, they won't ask questions." "Whose mark?" he asked. "His," she said. "The cattle king's son." Boots thumped the stoop. A knuckle rapped twice. Slow. "Barn's closed," the rancher called. "Storm damaged the roof," a laugh answered, not friendly. "Open it, neighbor." The rancher slid his knife into his belt and palmed a dull hammer instead. "Stay hidden," he told her. "What will you do?" she asked. "Stall and pray." He lifted the bar. The doors parted a hand's width. Two riders filled the gap. Slick coats, neat hats, dust too clean to belong to honest work. One held a red-sealed paper. The other smiled like a fence nail. "Evening," the paperman said. "Receiver's agent, looking for a fugitive." "Check the creek," the rancher said. "You'll find more frogs than men." The nail's smile widened. "We have a name." The rancher didn't blink. "Try me?" "Sachin," the agent said, crisp and wrong. "Apache woman. Stolen property." "People ain't property," the rancher replied. "Tonight they are," the agent said. He held the paper higher. "Order of seizure." From the haystack, her whisper trembled. "Don't answer, please." The agent peered past the rancher. "You limping?" "Roof fell," the rancher said. "Landed stupid." The agent sniffed. "We'll look anyway." The rancher planted his boots. "You got a warrant that knows my door." The nail smile man tapped the seal. "This one speaks all tongues." He pushed. The rancher didn't give. His voice dropped. "You smell smoke." "From your lies," the nailman said. A new set of boots hit the yard, heavier, slower. The men parted. A third figure stepped into the lamp's spill, a young man with a silver scarf and a brand-new pistol. His hair gleamed with oil, no dust could dull. She flinched behind the hay. The mark at her waist burned in memory. The young man smiled without warmth. "Open, friend. It's late." The rancher studied him. "You always hunt at night, mister." "Call me Clay," he said. "I reclaim what's mine." The rancher's jaw worked. "A person." Clay tilted his head. "A debt." "Show a paper with her name." the rancher said. Clay's smile sharpened. Her name is what I gave her. That's the paper. From the hay, her whisper floated. He thinks the world is spelled with his father's ink. Shh, the rancher breathed. Clay's eyes slid past the door crack. You hide something. Only a broken roof, the rancher said. Clay flicked his fingers, the nailman shoved. Wood groaned. The rancher rocked but didn't skid. Stall's over, Clay said. Move. The rancher lifted the hammer a hair. You put that pistol away. Clay chuckled. Why? Because my horses kick loud, the rancher said. Silence again. The agent weighed the dark. Clay weighed the rancher's eyes. The nailman reached for the latch. Inside, the woman's breath hitched. The coat slipped a little. The belt knot he'd loosened threatened to slide again. He knelt fast, hands quick. Keep pressure, he whispered. He retied the sash over the bandage he'd found. This mark, who carved it? His men, she said, under his order, hidden where clothes cover. So the law calls it rumor. What does it mean? He asked. Not wife, she said. Not widow, not free. It means keepers. He swallowed. Not here. The doors creaked wider. The agent's lantern reached inside. Light caught blood on straw. It painted an accusation across the floor. See that? The nailman said. Roof fall, the rancher snapped. Split a mule's nose. Then we'll check your mule, Clay said. The rancher stepped into the gap, shoulders filling it. You ever muck a stall in those pretty boots? Clay smiled. You ever hang from pretty boots? The agent raised the lantern higher. Light climbed the rancher's jaw, then spilled over his shoulder toward the hay. Back, the rancher said. Clay didn't move. I'm bored, he said. He nodded. The nailman drew his pistol. The rancher made his choice in one breath. He slammed the bar down hard. The doors jammed shut on gun and lantern both. The lantern clanged, swung, and died. The pistol barked, shattering a board. Sparks spat. Open, the agent barked. Get a warrant that knows nails, the rancher called. He hauled a hay rake through the handles and shoved a grain bin against the sill. The nailman cursed, tugging. Clay? Clay sounded amused. Fetch the boys. We'll smoke him. Boots pounded away, hooves clattered. The yard emptied a little. Not enough. Inside the barn, darkness took weight. The rancher knelt by her again. We don't have long. You should have let them take me, she said. Now you'll hang. He shook his head. I won't watch a brand decide a life. You don't know what he wants, she said. Tell me, he said. Her breath thinned. He wants silence. He wants the pass. He wants the paper that says the river moves for him. You have it? He asked. She hesitated, then nodded to the loosened knot. Under the bandage, a map, inked on cloth, stitched to skin so they'd give up searching my saddle. He froze. Stitched? By an old woman with good eyes, she said. My aunt. She sewed where men won't look. He swallowed hard. Does it hurt? It keeps me awake, she said. He fumbled for the small knife, hands careful. I need to see, to cut it free. She shut her eyes. Do it. Fast. Bite this, he said, sliding a folded kerchief between her teeth. He eased the sash aside, gripped the first stitch, and saw the edge of cloth she'd hidden, thin as a prayer, dark with ink. He snipped one loop, then another. A hoof struck the door. Men laughed outside, oil sloshed in a can. Smoke, she said around the cloth. They'll burn me out. Not before I finish, he said. He worked quicker, breath shallow. Why hide it with you? Because he searches saddles, she said. Not scars. The last stitch came free. He lifted the cloth, small and stiff with dried blood. Ink lines cut across it like a river learning a new bed. What does it show? He asked. Where the ridge breaks, she said. Where the water leaves his land, where the treaty line lies. And where he steals, he said. Hooves returned. 2 more sets, maybe 3. The agent's voice carried, brighter with company. Stack it on the roof. Light it. Not yet, Clay said. Let him sweat. The rancher folded the map and shoved it deep into his boot lining. He retightened the sash over her waist, pressing firm. Hold that. She nodded. I can stand. You can't, he said. Help me anyway, she answered. He slipped his arm under her shoulders. She rose with a hiss. He guided her behind the oat bin. If they come in, you run for the stalls. Back door's warped, but it opens. And you, she asked. I buy you 3 breaths, he said. That's not enough, she said. It's what I have, he said. A match scraped outside. The smell of oil shifted from threat to promise. Please, she whispered. Don't die for me. Don't tell me what to do, he said. A smile lived and died in one heartbeat. He grabbed a pitchfork, tested its weight, and took 2 steps toward the door. Wait, she said. Take this. She pressed something small and cold into his hand. He looked down. A carved bone whistle. What's it do? It calls who still listens, she said, if they're close. Who? He asked. Hunters, she said, not his men. The match flared brighter. Oil slopped. The nailman laughed. Warm night. Clay, the agent said. Your turn. Clay's voice drifted through the crack, lazy and cruel. Count to 10. The rancher lifted the whistle. His hand shook once. Do I trust this? You trusted me, she said. Outside, a line of fire took shape along the eaves, thin and hungry. He put the whistle to his lips. He blew once, twice. The sound was low, strange, like wind through bone. Nothing answered. Clay began to count, slow and delighted. 1, 2, 3. Again, she whispered. He blew harder. The pitchfork rattled in his sweaty palm. Outside, a horse stamped. Then another. A soft call answered from the low field. Not English, not Clay's men. The agent cursed. That sound again. Coyote, the nailman said. 4, 5. Clay hummed. The rancher blew a 3rd time. Long. Hooves shifted beyond the far fence. A shadow moved where there should be none. 6, Clay said, amused. Leather creaked above the barn rafters. The rancher's eyes shot up. A shape hung in the black, silent as a thought. 7, Clay said. The shape resolved into a man crouched on the beam, face painted ash, bow already drawn. 8, Clay sang. The barn door hinge chirped as heat licked iron. Smoke edged in under the sill. 9, Clay said. The beamman's arrow kissed the agent's lantern through the crack. Glass popped. Darkness swallowed the yard. Clay laughed, delighted. Now the fun starts. Darkness swallowed the yard. The hunter on the beam didn't breathe. His bow stayed drawn. Who's there? The agent barked. Coyotes, the nailman said. Not sure. Clay sounded cheerful. Light another. A second lantern scraped. A match hissed. The hunter's arrow snapped again. Glass popped. Night rushed back in. The rancher whispered, Friend of yours. The woman nodded, shaky. Kaya. Kaya, the rancher breathed. Bless you. Move when he whistles, she said. A soft tongue click fell from the rafters, not a whistle. Close enough. Kaya lowered, cat quiet. Back door, he murmured. Warped, the rancher said. Bar sticks. Kaya's palm brushed the latch once. The bar slid like it loved him. Open on the drop, he said. Boots ringed the yard again. Oil sloshed. Clay hummed. 10, he said, delighted. Firebirds of pitch licked under the eaves. The woman gripped the rancher's sleeve. You have the map. In my boot, he whispered. Good, she said. If I fall, don't. You won't, he said. Kaya's eyes found the sash at her waist. Hurts. Later, she said. I can run, he believed her. On my mark. Outside, the agent rallied. Hold the door, no rush, smoke them, Clay chuckled. Or we watch them choke and collect the rest. The rest, the rancher mouthed. The river deeds, she said. What the map proves. Kaya signed 2 fingers. Now. He dropped, rolled, and pulled the rear door. Air sighed in. Night, sweet and cold. Go, the rancher whispered. The woman limped 3 steps, then steadied. Kaya flowed behind her. The rancher followed with the pitchfork, eyes on the beam glow above. A board shrieked. The nailman shouted, Back door! Clay laughed, happy. At last! A pistol shot split the night. Wood spat beside the woman's hip. Kaya shoved her flat. The rancher's heart kicked his ribs. He dragged her behind the oat bin again. "Stay." "No," she said. She shoved his shoulder. "Stalls. Now." They sprinted the line. Horses stirred, ears flicking. The rancher slapped a lead rope onto the quietest gelding's halter. "Good boy, easy." Kaya lifted the bar on the last stall. "2 mounts." "Take the mare," the rancher said. "I run faster," Kaya murmured. The woman set her jaw. "He rides, I run." The rancher hesitated. "You bleeding." "Still faster than fire," she said. A boot hit the back threshold. The nailman lunged in, pistol first, lamp behind him. Light carved a cruel wedge across hay. "Hands," he barked. Kaya melted up the stall front, flat as shadow. The rancher stepped forward, pitchfork low. "You lost." The nailman sneered. "Found." His pistol swung toward the woman. Kaya's hand dropped. A small blade whispered. The lamp went blind. The nailman fired on fear. The ball cracked a beam and screamed away. The rancher drove the pitchfork. Wood thumped ribs. Air left the man like a kicked bellows. He folded, wheezing. "Move," Kaya said. They hit the back door. Clay's voice drifted, amused. "There they are." 2 silhouettes cut in from the pens. Receiver coats, short batons, no patience. The first swung at the rancher's head. He ducked. The baton whistled past and bit a post. He rammed his shoulder into the man's chest and heard air go again. The second reached for the woman's sash. "Got you." Her knee snapped up. He saw stars. She tore free. "Don't touch me." Kaya bent, snatched dirt, threw it. The man blinked mud tears. Kaya's palm met his ear. He sat down hard. "Gate," the rancher hissed. They burst through, into low stubble and a night made of sage. Clay clapped once, delighted. "Run, rabbits!" Hooves flanked left. The agent wheezed, furious. "Take them!" Kaya led them into the wind shadow of a haystack. Low. Quiet. The woman panted, then forced breath slow. "Not holds," she whispered, helpless humor in it. The rancher swallowed a laugh that wanted to break. "Good." Hooves slowed, probing. Men muttered. A match lit, died, lit again. Kaya's eyes tracked the fence line. "To the arroyo," he said. 3 steps, then none. "Drop," the woman said. "Drop," the rancher echoed. They belly-crawled into brittle weeds. The arroyo opened under them like a mouth. They slid, quiet as prayer. Above, Clay called, "Where, Kaya?" "Witch hole." Kaya's chuckle lived only in his throat. "Not yours." They crabbed along the dry cut, hidden by sage and old floods. Smoke curled over the lip above. Heat licked the sky. The barn crackled like a tired giant. The woman touched the rancher's knee. "Listen." He held breath. Hoof rhythm shifted. 1 horse, not 2, circling lazy. Clay enjoying himself. Kaya signed, "Water bend," then split. "Split," the rancher whispered. "They can't follow 3 tracks at once," Kaya said. "I won't leave her," the rancher said. "You won't," Kaya said. "She ghosts with me." "I'm heavier," she said. "You take him." Kaya shook his head. "You bleed quiet. He doesn't." "True," the rancher said, insulted and relieved. The arroyo kinked. A trickle of black water pooled in a hollow. Stars in it wobbled. Kaya pointed. "Your boots in the water, then out where I show." "They'll lose scent." The rancher nodded. "You sure?" "No," Kaya said, but sure enough. A low whistle rode the wind. Not Kaya's, different, east. Her hand clenched. "Clay's cousin. He calls dogs." "Dogs?" the rancher asked. "2," she said. "Mean." Kaya's jaw set. "Faster." They waded the pool. Cold bit ankles, blessed and cruel. The rancher eased out where Kaya tapped and found dry sand that held no print. Kaya pointed the woman up a cut no coyote would love. She didn't complain. She climbed. Her breath was a stitch in the dark. "Here," the rancher whispered. He boosted her with both hands, careful of the sash. "Push." She slid onto a shelf and vanished into grass. Kaya flowed after. "Drop a stone when you're clear," the rancher whispered. "I'll head west." A pebble clicked. "Good." He turned to go. A dog growled behind him. He froze. The dog's teeth lit like pearls in starlight. The second dog paced left, hemming him. "Easy," the rancher said, palms out. Clay's whistle trilled again. Close. "There you are." Clay's shadow perched on the arroyo lip. Pistol lazy, smile bright. "Don't run. I need the map." "What map?" the rancher asked. "The one sewn under my mark," Clay said, pleased with himself. The rancher lied by not answering. Clay's pistol tilted. "Bring me the lady." "Bring me my road." The dogs inched forward. The rancher swallowed. "Call them off." "Give me a reason," Clay said. A soft thrumming rose in the grass above Clay. Kaya's bowstring. The rancher held Clay's eyes. "You like counting," he said. "Count this." Clay laughed. "1." The dog tensed. "2." Clay sang. The rancher whispered, "3." Kaya's arrow took Clay's hat. Feather and felt flew. Clay flinched. The dogs burst. The rancher dove, grabbed a wrist of sage, rolled feet first. A dog hit his boot. Teeth closed on leather. Pain still found ankle. He kicked hard. The dog lost him. He rolled to his knees. Clay fired wild. Dirt spat his cheek. The woman slid down the cut like a hawk, grabbed a dead limb and smashed it across a dog's chest. "Back!" the dog yelped. Kaya's second arrow thudded into the ground at Clay's heel, like a polite promise. "Leave," Kaya said, voice low from the grass. "Now." Clay's laugh came back, thin. "For tonight." He whistled twice. The dog circled back, snarling. Clay retreated a step, then 2. "Tomorrow, neighbor." Silence returned in scraps. Smoke drifted thin. The barn's crackle softened. The rancher exhaled. "You all right?" The woman nodded. "Alive." Kaya dropped into the arroyo. "Move." "He'll fetch more." They followed the cut west until fences turned to open and the sky grew taller. At last, Kaya pointed to a dark cleft in rock, a slot where wind slept. "Camp." The woman stumbled. The rancher caught her. "Easy." Kaya crouched and listened to the night. "We buy 1 hour." The rancher eased her against the stone, opened his coat, and tucked it around her. "Warm." "Thank you," she whispered, "for ignoring me when I said don't." He smiled. "You'll forgive me." "Maybe," she said. "Show me the map." He slid the cloth from his boot. He unrolled it on his knee. Ink lines crossed, small notes in a steady hand. In the corner, a mark like a fishhook. "What's that?" he asked. "Proof," she said. "The surveyor's sign." He drew both lines, the true and the paid. Kaya leaned in. "Where does it cut him?" "Here," she tapped. "A mile past his fence. He steals river and taxes both." "And the pass?" the rancher asked. She traced a thin break in a ridge. "There, if we reach it first, the law can see. If he reaches it, he buries everything." "How far?" the rancher asked. Kaya stared at the stars. "Half a night, if nobody bleeds worse." The rancher looked at her bandage, at the stitches he'd cut. "Can you?" She drew breath. "I can." He nodded. "Then we go." They rose. The slot spat them into sage again. The world felt new and old at once. They walked, quiet, swift, hearts loud. Behind them, a distant shout carried. Clay's men finding the cold lamp, the kicked dog, the empty barn. Another shout answered from farther west, too close. Kaya stopped cold. "Listen." Hooves. Not many, heavy. Not Clay's cadence. Not the agent's. "Who?" the rancher whispered. Kaya's mouth thinned. "The cattle king himself." A yellow lantern bobbed over the next rise. Broad-shouldered rider, wide hat. No hurry at all. And beside him, a second horse carried a woman with a shawl and a doctor's bag. The rancher squinted. "Who's—" "My stepmother," the Apache woman said, voice gone flat. "She finds what he wants to keep." They ducked lower into sage. The lantern paused, then turned straight toward their cleft, as if it had been pointing there all night. The trio slipped the first ring of men, but a new pair approaches. The cattle king and the stepmother midwife who finds what he wants to keep. Their lantern angles unerringly toward the hiding place. Darkness swallowed the yard. "Don't breathe loud," the rancher whispered. The woman clutched his coat. "Who answered?" "A hunter," he said. Maybe more. A soft footfall ticked across the beam. The ash-faced man lowered himself on a rope of rawhide, silent as dew. The rancher lifted the pitchfork. Friend? The hunter touched his chest with 2 fingers. Kin. His English was spare, like flint. Name? 10 knots. Sachin, he asked. Here, she answered, voice small. 10 knots' eyes found her. They softened. You live? Barely, she said. Boots scuffed outside. Clay's voice floated, cheerful. What a lovely night. Light it. 10 knots' head tilted. Roof. Pitch, the rancher said. 10 knots slipped the rawhide around the beam. Cut smoke path, open loft slot, push heat up. Will that save us? The rancher asked. By breaths, 10 knots said. The nailman scratched a match. Flame licked. 10 knots pointed at the back stall. Hole there, jammed bar. Need hands. The rancher moved. So did Sachin. He stopped. Wait, your side. She braced on a post. I stand. He tore a strip from his own shirt. He wrapped her ribs firm. Breathe shallow, follow me. Outside, the agent cursed. Where's my light? Clay chuckled. Borrow the stars. The roof crackled, thin but growing. Smoke found the slats and curled in, wary and grey. 10 knots cut a square in the loft hay with 3 quick knife pulls. Cold night air kissed their faces. Smoke rose faster. Good, he murmured. Back door, the rancher said. He jammed his shoulder into the warped plank. Wood groaned. Nails complained. The bar held like pride. Let me, 10 knots said. He slid beside, set his heel, and pressed quiet strength. The plank shifted a hair. Not enough. Sachin put both palms on the wood. Push. You'll tear, the rancher said. She swallowed. Then tear. They shoved together. The bar squealed. A splinter hopped free. Outside, Clay's men dragged an oil sack across shingles. More here. Care, the agent warned. Don't burn the boss's herd. Clay laughed. He owns the next herd, too. The rancher's jaw tightened. He thinks land belongs to his name. 10 knots nodded at Sachin's waist. He carved it. Not for long, she said. The bar gave another inch. Cold air seeped along the floor. Almost, the rancher grunted. A boot scraped right outside the back. Someone had circled. A shadow crossed the crack. 10 knots froze. Knife! The rancher eased the pitchfork head into the seam, hiding the glint. The shadow leaned to peer in. 10 knots flicked his wrist. His knife tapped the shadow's wrist and left. The man hissed, dropped his lantern, and swore. No light flared. Oil had not reached this door yet. Clay sighed grandly. Gentlemen, competence. The agent snapped. Shut it! 10 knots retrieved his blade from the straw as if picking a flower. Go, he said. Give me your sash. Sachin whispered to the rancher. Wrap my waist tighter. He hesitated. You sure? Yes, she said. I move better bound. He pulled the belt and knotted it firm over the bandage. Tell me if you faint. I won't, she said. She didn't. They heaved again. The bar finally slid into its notch with a grudging click. The door budged, an inch, 2. Cold night poured in like mercy. Now, 10 knots said. They slipped into the alley of shadow between barn and corral. The rancher paused, listening. Where? 10 knots pointed low. Ditch to the willows, quiet feet. Sachin's breath shivered. Clay will hear the drain grate. Then we move when he laughs, 10 knots said. As if cued, Clay chuckled by the front doors. I hear mice. Burn it brighter. The agent ordered. Make a ring. Flame picked the eaves again, teeth finding dry wood. The rancher ducked into the ditch, one arm around Sachin. 10 knots slid last, covering with eyes. They crawled. Mud drank sound. Smoke drifted overhead like a bad dream. At the willows, 10 knots raised his hand and stopped them. He crouched, ear near earth. 2 men, left, 1 right, dog. He frowned. No, not dog. Talkbox. Talkbox? The rancher asked. Receiver toy, 10 knots said. Wire voice. Calls more men. The rancher tasted iron. We cut it. 10 knots shook his head. Too near light. Then we steal it, Sachin whispered. Make their voice lie. The rancher looked at her. You can walk that quick. I can crawl faster, she said. 10 knots watched the ring of fire climb, then lowered. 4 breaths. Ready, the rancher said. They wormed through reeds to a low fence. Beyond, a wagon waited in shadow, small chest on its seat, wire coiled like a snake into the dark. The nailman leaned on the wheel, bored. His pistol hung lazy. The agent paced. Clay spun his silver scarf like a joke only he liked. 10 knots drew a line in the mud. Here, when his eyes pass, you slide. Which first? The rancher asked. Box, Sachin said. 10 knots nodded. We trust her. The agent's lantern arced left, then right. It blinked across the willows and moved on. 10 knots hissed. Now! Sachin moved like breath. She slid to the wheel, lifted the chest with both hands, and sank back into shadow. The wire snapped free with a tick. No shout. Not yet. Open, the rancher whispered. She shook her head. After. Clay scuffed the dirt, restless. I'm bored again. The agent growled. Let me light it. Do, Clay said. The lantern climbed. The agent's head tilted. He sniffed. Something's wrong. The nailman straightened. His lazy gun lifted a finger. 10 knots didn't wait. He loosed an arrow as if it had been waiting in the air for permission. The arrow thudded into the agent's boot. The man howled, hopping. Coyotes, Clay said, amused. Stomp them. The rancher felt the ditch floor dip. Water murmured under reeds. A culvert. He touched Sachin's arm. There. We drown, she said. We hide, he said. 10 knots drew again. Cover. Sachin lifted the talk box lid with careful fingers. Inside, a hand pump, a key, a little coil that sang to the wire, and a slip of paper with 4 words written in a neat clerk's hand. Sender chooses message. She met the rancher's eyes. We lie. What words? He asked. Target moved south. All clear, she whispered. The rancher nodded. Do it. Her fingers trembled but found the rhythm. Tap, 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 tap. The coil hummed back at her like a bee pleased with a flower. Outside, the nailman circled, pistol sniffing bushes. 10 knots arrows pricked his hat brim. The man swore and crouched. Clay, it's not mice. Clay sounded delighted. Then it's sport. The agent tried to limp with a pierced boot. He failed and threw the lantern down. Flame belched and died on wet dirt. Useless, Clay sighed. 10 knots pointed deeper along the ditch. Move. They slid under the willow roots. The culvert yawned, dark as a closed mouth. The rancher hesitated. You sure? Sachin squeezed his sleeve. Trust me once more. He went first, then her, then 10 knots last. Cold water kissed knees. The culvert swallowed light and sound. Above them, bootsteps crunched, then faded, then passed in a hurry toward the south where their lie pointed. Sender chooses message, the rancher breathed. Sachin smiled in the dark. For once. They emerged 50 yards beyond the corral in a wash of stars. The fire ring danced small behind the hay shed now, a fussy halo around stupidity. 10 knots scanned the ridge, his head cocked. He answered with a soft whistle not unlike the bones note. 2 shadows peeled from the sage and joined them, young hunters, lean and quiet. Path? The rancher asked. 10 knots pointed toward the arroyo. Dry bed. Safe. Sachin swayed. The rancher caught her. Hold. I'm fine, she whispered. She was lying. He felt heat under the bandage. Let me change it, he said. Later, she said. They'll split north soon. As if agreeing, Clay's voice drifted from the yard, amused and near. They slithered, boys. Split, north and east. The rancher's throat tightened. He squeezed Sachin's hand. Run. They jogged the arroyo. Moonlight turned the sand to bone. 10 knots moved like thought. Hunters flanking, behind. Hooves fanned. Torches bobbed. At a bend, the arroyo narrowed to a throat of rock. 10 knots lifted his palm. Wait. What? The rancher asked. He pointed. Prints. The rancher saw them. Heavy, fresh, many. Not Clay's horses, wagons, shoes with studs, military scale. Sachin's voice thinned. He called the levy. Receiver's men, the rancher asked. Cattle King's father, she said. Badge on loan, law for hire. 10 knots listened to the ground. His face closed. They are close. A faint metallic jingle answered him from around the bend. Not Clay's laugh, not the agent's bark. A new voice, calm and legal, rolled the arroyo like a stamp on wax. In the name of territorial law, halt! The hunters vanished into shadow as if they'd never been. 10 knots remained, bow low, eyes cold. Sachin's hand crushed the rancher's sleeve. If they see the mark, they won't, he said, though he wasn't sure. Boots scraped stone. A lantern flared, sober and gold. Men in plain coats, badges pinned neat, stepped into the throat, rifles level. At their center, a judge's clerk held a paper high, seal bright as a cruel moon. "Name?" he called. The rancher lifted his chin. "I'll give mine." "Good," the clerk said. "Give hers too." The rancher's fingers tightened around Sachin's wrist. She whispered, "Don't." He swallowed. "She's under my roof." "Then you shelter a felon," the clerk said, pleasant as milk. "Step forward, both of you." 10 knots' jaw flexed. He glanced at the ridge, then at the bone whistle in the rancher's pocket. The clerk's smile never faltered. "And bring whatever you stole from her belt." The rancher felt the little map against his ankle, sharp as a tooth. He heard Clay's riders closing from behind. He heard the law ahead. He heard the hunters, somewhere above, stringing bows as quiet as regret. He took one breath, then another. "Choose," the clerk said. The rancher opened his mouth, and from the dark behind the clerk, a firm voice cut like a clean blade. "Don't move another inch." A new badge stepped into lantern light. Not Clay's men, not the clerk's. A sheriff from another county, coat dusty, star honest, eyes tired. And the look he gave the rancher said he knew that map existed. Pinned between Clay's riders and a neat wall of borrowed law, the rancher faces a third force, a weary sheriff who recognizes the hidden map and orders everyone still. Who will he arrest, and who will he help? The weary sheriff's voice cut the arroyo. "Hands where I see them." His men filed in behind, rifles half raised, not eager, just practiced. The clerk bristled. "Sheriff, this is my writ." "Your writ is ink," the sheriff said. "Mine is blood." "Lower your papers." Clay's riders funneled from behind, hooves clattering. Torches hissed. Clay grinned wide. "So many stars tonight. Which one shines brightest?" The rancher pulled Sachin a step behind him. "Stay close," she whispered. "That badge, he's not Clay's." "No," he said, "but not mine either." The weary sheriff's eyes swept the arroyo, landing on the bandage at her waist. He saw too much. "Who marked her?" he asked. "Flat." Clay laughed. "You know the mark. My gift." The sheriff's jaw ticked once. He didn't look at Clay. He looked at the rancher. "You carrying anything that belongs to law?" The map burned against the rancher's boot. His mouth dried. "Only truth," he said. The clerk snapped. "Seize both, the woman and the man. Receiver orders." "Quiet," the sheriff said. His men didn't move. Sachin's grip on the rancher's sleeve tightened. "He knows. Then maybe he chooses," the rancher whispered. Clay dismounted with a flourish, silver scarf gleaming. "Why talk? Burn them out like we tried. Faster." The weary sheriff's revolver came up without hurry. "Try and I'll plant you here." Clay blinked, then smiled thin. "You'd hang for shooting a son of the cattle king." "I'd sleep," the sheriff said. The clerk fumed. "Outrage." "Outrage is branding women," the sheriff said. Silence pressed, tight as a noose. 10 knots shifted behind the rancher. Bow low, arrow nocked but not loosed. He murmured, "He is tired but not crooked." The rancher raised his chin. "Then let's hear him." The sheriff exhaled through his nose. "Here's how it is. Clay's father owns half the valley. His writs buy paper men like you." He flicked eyes at the clerk. "And scare badge men like me." "Then why stand here?" the rancher asked. The sheriff's gaze finally locked on him. "Because sometimes tired men choose once more." Sachin stepped forward, pulling the coat tighter. Her voice shook but carried. "Then choose me free, or kill me quick, but stop calling me property." The weary sheriff stared at her a long beat. His revolver didn't lower, his voice went softer. "What's under that sash?" The rancher answered first. A map, stitched, pulled free. Clay's eyes lit. My map. Not yours, Sachin spat. Mine. My aunt bled for it. I bled for it. The clerk lunged a step, palm out. Evidence. 10 knots arrowhead kissed the air in reply. The clerk froze. The sheriff held out his hand, palm open. Show me. The rancher knelt, tugged the folded cloth from his boot. He kept his hand steady, though his chest shook. He laid it on the dirt between them. The sheriff crouched slow, picked it up, and unrolled it under lantern light. Ink lines crawled. Surveyor's hook glinted. Clay licked his lips. See, road's mine. The sheriff's brow furrowed. Road runs past your fence. River cuts other land. This cloth proves theft. The clerk squawked. Forgery. Surveyor's mark is clean, the sheriff said. Clay's smile cracked. My father will bury you. Then he buries me, the sheriff said, but not her. He folded the map, slid it into his vest. His revolver stayed steady. This cloth rides with me to the circuit judge. She rides with me too, safe. Testify if she can. The rancher's gut twisted. And me, the sheriff studied him. You brought her out. You bled with her. You're no prisoner, but you're no free man either. Clay barked a laugh. He hangs with her. No, the sheriff said. He rides as witness. The clerk protested, voice cracking. You can't overrule receiver authority. I just did, the sheriff said. Clay's riders shifted, restless. Clay spread his hands. I can't wait to tell my father how you bent. The sheriff cocked his revolver a hair. You'll tell him from a distance, or not at all. Clay smirked but didn't advance. He whistled low. His men backed off, torches dimming. He mounted again, silver scarf snapping. Tomorrow, sheriff, tomorrow the paper wins. They retreated slow, mocking. Dust swallowed them. The arroyo breathed again. Sachin sagged. The rancher caught her. Easy. I'm fine, she lied. The weary sheriff gave one nod. Come, before he fetches 20 more. 10 knots asked. And us? Guard the trail, the sheriff said. You'll be needed. They started west, lanterns low. The sheriff kept the map close, his men tight. Sachin walked between, coat heavy, breath shallow. The rancher kept his hand steady at her elbow. For the first time that night, the stars felt less sharp. But as they rounded the arroyo bend, a sound rose, a telegraph bell sharp, echoing off the rocks. Not from town, from a portable rig. The clerk's voice hissed in panic. Capital already knows. Reinforcements ride dawn. The sheriff's face hardened. Then we reached the judge before dawn. They moved in the arroyo, lanterns hooded. Sugar, the weary sheriff said. He handed a twist of paper, for shock. Sachin took a pinch on her tongue. Good. The rancher poured a cap of water. Sip. I said I'm fine, she muttered, then drank anyway. 10 knots walked light on the bank, cut east at the cottonwoods. The clerk's telegraph bell tinked behind them, faint, cruel. The sheriff's jaw hardened. He warned Capital, we outrun ink. They hit the cottonwoods. Water murmured. The sheriff nodded to a deputy. Pike, scout the ford. Pike hesitated. Dark. Go, the sheriff said. 10 knots tugged Sachin's sash, checked the knot. Tight. Holds, she said. The rancher looked at her side. Let me see. No time, she said. He still peeled a corner of cloth. Warmth bled. He pressed fresh bandage from the sheriff's roll. Breathe, she hissed. I am... A coyote called. 10 knots answered with a click. Ridge watchers. Clay? The rancher asked. No, 10 knots said. Others. The ford whispered ahead. Pike waved a hand. Clear. 10 knots squinted. No, listen! A tiny bell chimed under the water, quick, eager. Wire on the rocks, he said. Trip and sing. The sheriff's palm lifted. Hold, Sachin whispered. He wants us noisy. Or dead, the rancher said. 10 knots knelt. One quick cut. The bell went dumb. Good, he said. They crossed. Water bit shins. The sheriff held his revolver high. The rancher kept Sachin steady with one hand, and her map's secret gone from his boot with the other. On the far bank, the sheriff opened his vest. He slid the folded cloth into an oilskin. Dry. Thank you, Sachin said. Don't thank me yet, he said. Hooves beat faint behind. Pike turned, jumpy. They're closer. 10 knots pointed. Deer path. They climbed a slope stitched with roots. Sage brushed knees. The rancher's breath rasped. Sachin's did too. Rest one count, the sheriff said. No, Sachin said. Yes, the rancher said. He shoved the biscuit into her hand. Chew. She broke it. She gave half back. Share. They ate fast. Moved again. At the ridge, a white shape rose. A woman's shawl. Neat. Clean. A doctor's bag glinted. Sachin stopped cold. Her. The woman smiled, kind on the surface. Child. The sheriff's hand went to his holster. Ma'am, my name is Mercy, she said. Your prisoner needs stitching. Not prisoner, Sachin said. Mercy's smile never cracked. You're cut. I see it from here. The rancher stepped in front. We've got it. Mercy lifted the bag. Laudanum. Clean needles. Real thread. 10 knots' eyes narrowed. And a wire in the handle. Mercy sighed, amused. Smart hunter. The sheriff's palm opened. Dropped the bag. Mercy placed it on a rock like a gift. I only mend. Sachin's face flattened. You mend what he breaks. Mercy's voice softened. I kept you alive, little wild thing. Long enough to sell me, Sachin said. Mercy's lashes lowered. Long enough to hope you'd learn. The sheriff kicked the bag away. Keep walking. Mercy's mouth pinched. Clay's father is coming with the levy. You can't outrun him. Watch me, the sheriff said. Mercy shrugged. Then at least stop the bleeding, right? Her eyes flicked to the rancher's hands. You rap like a good man, but bad thread. The rancher didn't move. We're done. Mercy stepped aside, shawl brushing greasewood. Be careful on the next gully. He salted it with iron. They passed. 10 knots murmured. She lies and tells truths together. I know, the sheriff said. They reached the gully. Iron spikes gleamed under dust. 10 knots slid a branch through, lifted, tossed them aside one by one. Why help with the worn? The rancher asked Sachin. Mercy loves to be right, she said, even when she's wrong. Past the gully, the path funneled to a narrow saddle. Wind pressed hard. Dawn seeped at the edges of the world. Pike lagged. I can't. You can, the sheriff said. Pike's eyes cut to the oilskin bulge in the sheriff's vest. He'll pay my debts. No, the sheriff said. Pike's jaw worked. Then his hand moved for his gun. 10 knots' arrow struck the dirt at Pike's toe. Think, 10 knots said. Pike froze. His shoulders sagged. I'm sorry. Me too, the sheriff said. He took Pike's pistol, tied his wrists with rawhide, and looped him to a mesquite. We'll fetch you on the ride back, if there is one. Pike swallowed. There won't be. The sheriff didn't answer. Move. They crested the saddle. The land opened. Far off, a brick box and a white tent stood by a cottonwood, circuit court on wheels. A lantern glowed steady on a post. Judge, the rancher breathed. Maybe, 10 knots said. They descended fast. Birds startled from grass. The lantern held steady, not swinging like a trap. The sheriff's shoulders eased a fraction. Then the lantern blinked twice, paused, blinked once. A code. 10 knots' head tilted. Receiver's signal. The sheriff's hand went to his pistol. Down. They slid into a wash. 10 knots crawled up and peered. 2 guards by the tent. Wrong hats. Vances, Sachin said. And more in the cottonwoods, 10 knots said. Sleepers. Judge, the rancher asked. Inside or gone, 10 knots said. The sheriff looked at the sky. Dawn licked the horizon like a cautious fire. We can't wait. Front door, the rancher asked. No, 10 knots said. Water door. What? Sachin asked. The creek cuts under the cottonwood bank, 10 knots said. Low shelf, wet bellies, quiet. The sheriff grunted. Show. They slithered to the creek. The shelf hid them from the lantern. Mud clung cold. Sachin's breath hitched once. The rancher steadied her. Almost, he whispered. 10 knots put a finger to his lips. He counted with his hand, 3, 2, 1, and lifted, eyes barely above water. He froze. Change. What? The sheriff breathed. Mercy, 10 knots said. They eased up a hair. Mercy stood by the tent door, shawl pale in dawn, speaking to a shape inside. Her hands moved small, precise, as if sowing air. The sheriff swore under breath. She made it. Sachin's jaw locked. She walks where men open doors. Mercy turned her head. Bring them, she said, low, calm. 2 guards with green collars hauled a man out, sleep-creased robe, clean boots, judge's face not fully awake. Hallie. The sheriff exhaled. He's here. Mercy smiled at him. Your Honor. Hallie blinked at the dawn, confused. I said court at 8. Court sits now, a new voice said. The cattle king himself rode in from the cottonwoods, big as a barn, hat low, coat perfect. He dismounted slow, deliberate. A receiver sergeant stood at his stirrup like a shadow. The king's eyes swept the field. He saw the tent, the lantern, the judge, the guards. He didn't see the shelf of creek. He smiled without joy. Law rides where cattle drink. Hallie's jaw tightened. Law rides where it must. The king nodded at Mercy. Thank you. Mercy dipped her head, modest. I bring what you want to keep. The sheriff's hand found the rancher's arm under water. We break this now or never. How? The rancher whispered. Noise, 10 knots said. Noise? Sachin asked. Bell, 10 knots said, eyes bright. Your town had one. Creek has a louder. What bell? The sheriff asked. 10 knots pointed upstream to a snag where flood debris had jammed. Log pinned on rock, ma push and it roars. The rancher understood. A wall of water. Enough to blind, 10 knots said. Not drown. Do it, the sheriff said. 10 knots slid off like a fish. The hunters above answered his soft whistle with the creak of shifted wood. Mercy lifted a handkerchief. White surrender, but not. The sergeant raised a paper. Emergency writ. Hallie reached for it on instinct. Now, 10 knots breathed from the snag. The hunters levered the jam. The log rolled. Water surged. The creek heaved, slapped the underbank, and roared along the shelf like a hidden train. Lanterns skittered. Men shouted. Mercy's shawl flashed. The king swore. Boots splashed. Go! The sheriff barked. They surged from the shelf. Soaked. Fast. The rancher hit the tent flap first, knife up. Your Honor! Hallie reeled back. The sergeant spun. 10 knots' arrow smacked his sleeve to the pole. Sachin stepped between Mercy and Hallie, eyes dark. No more stitches for me. Mercy looked almost proud. You're louder than you were. Good, Sachin said. The king reached for his pistol. The sheriff's revolver found his arm. Don't! Men crashed from the cottonwoods. Green collars, ranch hands, sleepers awake, guns wet, nerves raw. The rancher shoved Hallie behind the cot. Read the map now. Hallie blinked water. Map. The sheriff yanked the oilskin from his vest and flung it. Survey proves theft. Hallie snapped it open. Ink lines shone in wet light. The hook glinted. Mercy's eyes flicked once. Then she stepped in close. Too close, scissors appearing from nowhere. The rancher caught her wrist. No. She smiled. Sad. Always the wrong tool at the right time. Outside, the king roared to his men. Seize all, 10 knots shouted from the creek. Hold the door. The sheriff planted in the entrance, broad steady. Court sits where we stand. Hallie swallowed, squaring his shoulders. Read into record. The snag popped again. A second wave shoved the tent post. The pole leaned. And above the canvas, a shadow loomed. Clay on the ridge, grin bright, fuse lit in his hand, bottle ready to fly. They've reached Judge Hallie and opened the map, but the Cattle King's men swarm, Mercy's scissors flash, and Clay appears on the ridge with a fire bottle poised over the tent. One throw, and the court and the proof go up in flame. The bottle arced. Clay's grin widened. Catch, he sang. Down! The weary sheriff barked. 10 knots bows spoke. The arrow cracked glass mid-air. Fire sprayed, then hit the surge from the loosened jam. Steam leapt. Pitch hissed and died against wet canvas. The rancher slammed a soaked tarp over the tent ridge. "Hold," Sachin pressed with him, teeth bared. "Push the breath out." The flare guttered. Smoke thinned. Hallie coughed hard. "Court," he steadied himself, "is now in session." The Cattle King snorted. "Not while I breathe." "You may breathe and still be wrong," Hallie said. Mercy's scissors flashed near Sachin's sash. The rancher grabbed her wrist. "No." Mercy's voice came soft. "She's bleeding through. If she faints, your court loses its witness." Sachin met Mercy's eyes. "Fast. No tricks." Mercy nodded once. "As you wish." Her hands moved quick. "Don't look at me like I chose this mark." Men did. "Men you cook for," Sachin said. "Men I keep alive," Mercy answered. "Sometimes that's the only move left." The weary sheriff held the flap with his shoulder, pistol low. Hallie read. Hallie opened the oilskin. He frowned. "Wet." The ink beaded. It wanted to run. The rancher stripped off his coat. "Here." "Not enough," Hallie said. His gaze cut to a small book in his pocket. "Sorry, Father." He pressed the map between Bible pages and held. "Blot. Don't smear." The Cattle King laughed. "Blasphemy." "Evidence," Hallie said. 10 knots glanced at the creek. "More coming." "How many?" the sheriff asked. "High enough to grow loud," 10 knots said. The receiver sergeant yanked at his pinned sleeve, snarling, "Seize them!" The sheriff didn't look. "Move again, and you chew dirt." Clay reappeared on the ridge with another bottle. "Second try?" "Don't," Hallie said. "You'll make law bigger." Clay smiled. "I like big fires." Mercy tied Sachin's sash tighter. Efficient. Better. Sachin exhaled. "I can stand." Hallie opened the Bible. The map now ghosted on the thin page, hook and all. He held the cloth above it. Surveyor's sign matches. River deviation past fence. Theft shown. The Cattle King's jaw didn't move. Forgery. "Bring your surveyor," Hallie said. "Under oath, here and now." "I brought a clerk," the king said. "Clerks don't move rivers," Hallie replied. The rancher stepped forward. "Testify me." "Name," Hallie said. "Eli Ward." "Statement." "I cut stitches from her belt," Eli said. "Map was sewn where men won't search. I saw the mark carved by Clay's men. I saw the agent's lantern. I saw them try to burn a barn." "Entered," Hallie said. He turned. "And you?" He looked to 10 knots. 10 knots, the hunter said. "I saw pitch. I saw wire voice. I cut both." "Entered," Hallie said. The Cattle King lifted a palm. "Enough play." He pointed at Mercy. "Bring the girl." "Bring the cloth. We end this in my yard." Mercy's face didn't change. "She walks where she chooses." Clay's laugh cooled. "You're soft today." "Your father has too many dead sons," Mercy said. Quiet. Clay's eyes flared. "Watch your mouth." The weary sheriff leaned into the doorway. Ridge left. 10 knots flowed to the canvas slit. "I see them." "How many?" the sheriff asked. 10, 10 knots said. "Maybe 12. Sachin touched Eli's sleeve. "If they swarm, a run to the willow jam. Take Hallie." "I won't leave you," Eli said. "You won't have a court if you fail," she said. Hallie flattened the Bible page on a crate, voice steady. "Provisional injunction. All movement on the disputed pass ceases. Receiver custody suspended pending hearing." The Cattle King smiled with all his teeth. "You think ink can stop hooves?" "It can slow them," Hallie said. "Long enough for eyes to catch up." The receiver sergeant finally ripped free of the arrow and lunged. The sheriff wheeled and knocked him cold with one heavy backhand. "Eyes caught," he said. A horn blew from the cottonwoods. Not Clay's. A deeper note. The King's levy. "Positions!" the sergeant's second yelled. Eli grabbed the tarp again. "Hold above the crate." "Why?" the sheriff asked. "So Hallie's page doesn't see a spark," Eli said. Mercy slid 2 fingers into her bag. "Thread." Sachin stiffened. "What now?" Mercy held up a curved needle. "I closed the edge you opened." Sachin took one breath. "Do it." Mercy stitched quick and clean. "I taught you to braid. You never listened." "I'm listening now," Sachin said. Clay's second bottle arced. 10 knots arrow met it again. Glass burst early. fire kissing the creek, steam shouting once more. "Out of bottles," Eli called up. Clay's smile glowed. "Never." The Cattle King raised 2 fingers. A levy squad stepped from the cottonwoods with a long box on poles. They set it down. The lid flipped. A rifled volley gun gleamed like a black organ. Hallie didn't blink. "Sheriff." "I see it," the sheriff said. 10 knots drew breath. "We can blind once, not twice." Mercy tied off the stitch. "She stands." Sachin rolled her shoulders. "I speak now." Hallie nodded. "Speak." She stepped up on the crate, one hand on Eli's shoulder to steady. Her voice went low and iron. "My name is Sachin. I am not property. I was marked to be quiet. I bled to be heard. The river was moved by men who think ink is a rope. I cut that rope." The tent hushed. Even the levy squad paused. The Cattle King's lip twitched. "Pretty." "Plain," Sachin said. Hallie lifted the Bible. "Entered." He angled the page so Dawn found the ghosted lines. "All present are witnesses." The levy gun crew cranked elevation. Metal sighed. The sheriff hissed, "Down!" Eli pulled Sachin off the crate. 10 knots ripped a guy rope free. Canvas sagged. The first volley chewed the tent's peak instead of throats. "Smoke them!" the sergeant bellowed. Mercy tossed her shawl over the Bible. "Cover it!" Eli slapped another wet tarp across the crate. Sachin pressed it down with both hands. 10 knots hunters cracked from the creek bank, arrows stinging wrists and cheeks. The levy line flinched. The Cattle King drew, slow. The sheriff's muzzle met his. "Don't!" Clay whooped on the ridge. "Third time?" He struck a match with his teeth. Hallie looked at Eli. "Can you carry paper and live?" "Yes," Eli said. "Then go," Hallie said. Eli hesitated. "And her?" "Both," Hallie said. The sheriff threw his coat over the Bible and shoved it into Eli's chest. "Move." "Not without you," Eli said. "You've got my badge in that bundle," the sheriff said. "Go earn it." Sachin grabbed Mercy's wrist. "Come with us." Mercy blinked. "Why?" "So you stitch where I tell you," Sachin said. Mercy almost smiled. "Bossy child." She nodded. "Fine." 10 knots cut a second rope. The tent leaned hard, turning into a wall. He shouted, "Now!" They burst through the slack canvas. The levy guns spatter short, blind burst into fabric. Holes appeared like angry stars. Eli ran low, the Bible bundle tight under his arm. Sachin ran beside, breath ragged but even. Mercy kept pace, bag thumping. Clay's lit bottle sailed, curve perfect. "Left!" 10 knots shouted. They cut left. The bottle thumped into the empty wall of canvas and bloomed. Heat reached for their backs. Steam from the creek shoved against it, friendlier than fire. The king roared orders. The levy gun swung. "Fence!" the sheriff yelled. Eli saw it, a stack of court benches lashed for travel. He and Sachin flipped one. It became a shield on skids. They shoved. Mercy pushed 2, jaw set. Arrows hissed again. The sergeant cursed. Hallie called out, voice calm in chaos. "On the record, injunction stands. Sheriff's escort authorized. Any interference is contempt and will be punished to the full." "Who punishes?" the king mocked. "History," Hallie said. They reached the water's lip. 10 knots pointed at the willow jam. "Under." Eli glanced back. The sheriff still stood in the torn doorway, revolver steady, not blinking. "Come." "I'll follow," the sheriff said. "Go." Eli slid the bundle onto the shelf, then his body. Sachin followed, biting a hiss. Mercy last bag first. The levy gun found them. The barrel dropped, hungry. A single shot cut the morning, not volley, not arrow. The levy gunner jerked and fell. Smoke feathered high from the cottonwoods behind Hallie's tent. An old man stepped forward, coat patched, badge tarnished, rifle long as memory. He tipped his hat to Hallie. "Court's mine too, some days." Hallie nodded once. "Welcome." Clay screamed something wordless and furious. He lit another match with shaking fingers. 10 knots hissed, "Move!" They slid deeper along the shelf, water cold, lungs hot. Above, the Cattle King's voice finally broke. "Take the judge," Boots thundered. Canvas ripped. The sheriff braced alone in the doorway, iron in both hands. He smiled once at Eli through the gap. "Run." Eli swallowed hard. "I will." The levy gun crew grabbed the crank again. The barrel swung. The match in Clay's fingers sparked brighter. Mercy whispered, "Don't drop that book." "I won't," Eli said. He lied. The shelf dipped. His foot slipped. The bundle jolted. The Bible slid toward the water and caught on the edge of Mercy's open scissors, blades pinning leather like a hinge. With the levy gun re-aiming and Clay winding up another fire bottle, the Bible-pressed map teeters above the creek, held only by Mercy's scissors. If her grip fails, the evidence drowns and the court burns. The Bible bundle trembled on Mercy's scissors. Leather squeaked. Water lapped hungry inches below. "Hold it," Eli gasped. Mercy's jaw locked. "Don't breathe." Sachin pressed her palm under the blades, steadying. "Cut me if you must. Don't drop it." "I never cut what I mean to keep," Mercy said. 10 knots braced her wrist. "Grip." She nodded once. Her knuckles went white. The Bible slid back an inch, safe. For now, above, the levy gun cranked. The crew shouted. Clay whooped like a crow. "Up!" the sheriff barked from the torn tent doorway. "Get that map up the creek!" Eli shoved forward. "Come!" Sachin followed, still clutching Mercy's wrist to steady the scissors, bundle wedged tight. The shelf narrowed, water soaked thighs. Cold bit hard. Behind, canvas tore again. The Cattle King bellowed. "Seize them all!" Hallie's voice cracked through chaos. "On record, sheriff's escort continues. Any shot fired is contempt of court." The king laughed dark. "Court drowns today." The levy gun spat 3 rounds. Rock above Eli's head shattered. Dust showered. Mercy almost slipped. "Don't let go," Sachin hissed. Mercy bared her teeth. "I won't." 10 knots turned, arrow loosed blind. A gunner shrieked, clutching his arm. The crank slowed. "Move!" the sheriff thundered again. They crawled further along the shelf. The roar of the creek masked their breath. Ahead, the jam's broken log had left a cave of sorts, hollowed by floods. Inside, 10 knots said, they ducked in, dripping, hearts pounding. The cave stank of rot and silt. It was narrow, dark, but it held. Eli sagged, pressing the Bible bundle to his chest. "Safe." "Not yet," Sachin said. Her eyes burned in shadow. "Safe when Hallie stamps it." Mercy wiped her wet scissors on her shawl. "Child, you bleed through again." Sachin shook her head. "Later." Eli knelt, checking the bundle. Pages damp but legible. Ink still sharp. He sighed. "Still breathes." A horn blew outside. Low, a horn blew outside. Low, long. Not Clay's. Not the king's levy. 10 knots stiffened. "Cavalry!" The sheriff's shout carried over the water, ragged with strain. "Blue coats, East Bank," Eli blinked. "Army?" "No," Sachin said. "Company men, contracted," Mercy confirmed, voice flat. "Your paper brings more than law. It brings the men who sell law by the bullet." 10 knots strung another arrow. "How many?" "Enough to think they already own the valley," Mercy said. The sheriff's revolver boomed twice. "I can't hold both." Eli rose to go back. "He'll fall." Sachin grabbed his arm. "He told you run. He's my witness, too," Eli said. "Then make him proud by keeping this dry," she said, tapping the Bible. The cave shook. A cannon round, distant but real, thudded into earth above. Dirt rained down. Mercy's lips pressed. They dragged light artillery. Sachin's breath stuttered. "For what?" "A woman and a cloth." "No," Eli said. His voice felt heavier than his body. "For land that drinks a river." 10 knots pointed deeper. "Cave splits. West path or south path?" "Which?" Eli asked. "West bends back to town. South to the pass," 10 knots said. "South," the sheriff barked from outside. "Go south." The king's voice roared over him. "Don't let them slip. Fire the ridge." Flame smell hit fast. Dry willow smoke rolled into the cave mouth. Sachin coughed once, hard. Eli shoved the Bible bundle into Mercy's arms. "Hold it. Stitch your hands around it if you must." Mercy smirked faint. Bossy like her. She clutched it close. 10 knots drew a second arrow. "I take west. Slow them." You'll die, Sachin said. Not tonight, he answered. He slid out into smoke, bow already singing. Shouts followed. Eli pushed Sachin deeper into the south tunnel. Stay low. Her breath hitched, but she moved. Mercy close behind, shawl pressed over nose. Bible bundle hugged like a child. The tunnel bent. Light seeped from a crack. They spilled onto a rocky cut overlooking the valley. Dawn had broken, pale and merciless. Below, dust columns rose. Company cavalry, neat lines, rifles glinting. Behind them wagons, iron-ribbed, flag of capital snapping. Sachin sank to her knees. Too many. Eli crouched beside her. Then we stay unseen, Mercy whispered. Not long. They sweep every rock. A hawk cry split the air, not bird a signal. 10 knots again. Sachin's eyes filled, but no tears fell. He still lives. Then so do we, Eli said. Hoofbeats clattered on the ridge behind. Clay again, laughing. Found you. Eli spun. Clay's pistol gleamed, silver scarf bright. His dogs padded at his stirrups. Hand me the Bible, Clay said. I'll let one of you walk. Sachin stood, shaking but fierce. Not me, Clay grinned. Then the boy. Eli squared his shoulders. Try me. Clay leveled his pistol, gladly. Before he could fire, a deeper boom rolled up the valley. A true cannon, not levy, not company, a field gun. Its shell screamed overhead and smashed the ridge behind Clay. Rock burst. His horse screamed. Clay tumbled sideways, scarf ripped, pistol clattering into scrub. His dogs bolted. Eli pulled Sachin down, covering her with his body. Dust rained. Mercy clutched the Bible bundle tighter, whispering words no one caught. When dust cleared, Clay crawled on hands and knees, face slashed, laughter gone. His eyes found Eli. Not done, he rasped. The company cavalry below broke ranks, confused by the sudden shell. Another boom. Another shot. Sachin blinked through smoke. Who fires? Eli scanned the ridgeline. A squad crouched near the jam. Militia coats, patched, not company. And one man standing on the limber, battered hat, iron beard, the weary sheriff's ally, the tarnished badgeman, his rifle long as memory. The field gun belched again, louder, nearer. The militia banner lifted on a pole, scrap cloth, inked with one word, free. Sachin's hand found Eli's. Do you see it? I do, he said. Clay's cracked voice carried. Fools, you'll all hang. Eli stood, knife in hand. Maybe, but not today. The militia guns fired again, shaking the valley awake. The militia banner snapped. Free, a promise and a dare. Eli crouched. Sachin, drink. She took the canteen. Small sips. Mercy checked the sash. Hold still. I am, Sachin said. Go. Clay clawed for his pistol. It wasn't there. He swore like a child who'd lost a toy. I'll cut your tongues. Later, Eli said. A militia rider slid down the slope, coat patched, badge dull. The iron-bearded elder with the long rifle, he lifted 2 fingers. Name's Boone. Eli nodded. Eli. Girl, Boone asked. Sachin, she said. Good, Boone said. Your voice cut through smoke. Company bugles blared below, lines formed, then wavered under the field gun's bark. The cattle king rallied them with a raised arm, calm, cold. Boone pointed with his chin. Judge? Alive, Eli said. Back at the creek tent. Sheriff? Still standing, Eli said. For now. Boone whistled once. 2 militiamen crawled up. One shoved a tin to Mercy. Honey for shock. Mercy eyed him. You steal from bees too. Only the loud ones, he said. Care done. Threat returned. A company captain stood in his stirrups. Advance by files. Rifles lifted. Hooves dug. Boone's jaw set. They'll sweep the creek and the ridge both. We need the judge, Eli said. We need the map, Boone said. Mercy hugged the Bible bundle. Then keep my hands attached. 10 knots slid into view, soot blacking his cheek. West is ash. I slowed them. Not stopped. Any path? Eli asked. Canyon lip, 10 knots said. Thin, one man wide, to the court tent from above. "Show me," Boone said. A shell thumped the far slope. Dirt hissed. Clay flinched and tried not to show it. He stood, wobbling, scarf torn. "Right out, you cowards!" he screamed at company men who did not work for him. The Cattle King didn't look up. He raised 2 fingers. The levy gun's crew adjusted. The muzzle found the torn tent again. "Move," Boone said. They scrambled along the lip, Eli first, then Sachin, then Mercy with the book. 10 knots covering. Boone last, with the long rifle balanced like a staff. The ledge pinched to a handspan. Wind shoved hard. Mercy swallowed. "I hate heights." "Don't look," Eli said. "I'm a nurse," she answered. "I always look." Below, the King's line advanced slow. Above, the field gun boomed. Smoke boiled. Men shouted names they hoped would answer. They reached a crack over the tent. Voices rose inside the canvas, Hallie reading, the sheriff cursing, a sergeant moaning. Close. Boone peered down. "We drop in quiet." "Through canvas?" Mercy asked. Boone smiled thin. "Through daylight." He tapped the pole. 10 knots slipped a knife under the guy and eased it. The canvas slackened and made a 3-foot mouth near the ridge. "Eli," Boone said. "You first with the book." "Right," Eli said. He looked at Mercy's hands. "Ready?" She nodded. "Don't miss." He slid through the gap and fell a short, hard foot onto cot legs. "Your Honor," he said, breathless. Hallie's face lit. "You again." "The book," Eli said. He set it on the crate. Dry. Hallie opened, saw the ghosted lines, exhaled once like a prayer he would never confess to. Sachin dropped next, light as a hawk with bandaged ribs. Mercy followed, landing with a gasp but not a scream. 10 knots flowed after, bow already drawn. Boone slid last, boots soft. The sheriff grinned, cracked lip bleeding. "You took your time." "We brought your badge back," Eli said, tapping the Bible. "Keep it warm," the sheriff said. A company squad broke into view through the creek smoke. The sergeant saw the slit, pointed, yelled. Boone lifted the long rifle. "Down!" He fired once. The sergeant folded, hat spinning into water. Hallie lifted his voice. "Record reflects militia and citizens protecting court. Cattle company interferes at peril." The Cattle King laughed low. "Record that my patience thins." Mercy tugged Eli's sleeve. "Her color's bad." Sachin set her jaw. "I stand." "Sit," Mercy said, "or you fall." Sachin sat on the crate edge, stubborn even as she obeyed. The company captain waved his hat. "Forward!" A dozen rifles cracked. Bullets ate the tent ridge. Boone shot again. 10 knots feathered a wrist. The sheriff's Colt spoke, steady. The mouth in the canvas widened with each hit. "Time," Boone said. "We can't hold a hole." "Then we walk the judge out," Eli said. "How?" Hallie asked. "Dry." "Through the water shelf," Eli said. The sheriff nodded. "He's right." Hallie tucked the map back in the Bible and tied it with his sash. "I hope my father forgives me." "He will," Mercy said. "Or he learns." Boone gave the sheriff a look. "You hold?" "Till I have to fall," as the sheriff said. Clay stumbled onto the ridge lip above the mouth, eyes wild. He had a stick of dynamite this time, waxy and mean. A short fuse spat. "Close enough," he jeered. "Drop it and you die," Boone said. "Maybe we all do," Clay said. His thumb trembled. "But I make the fire." Sachin stood despite Mercy's hand. "Clay." He jerked, eyes snapping to her. She spoke clear. "Look at me." He did. "You carved your name where you thought men wouldn't look," she said. "Now every face looks there, even God's." He shook, something breaking under his grin. "Shut up." Boone's rifle barked. The fuse popped off. The stick tumbled harmless into mud. Clay screamed and pitched after it, caught himself on scrub, hung there panting. "Mercy," Sachin whispered, dizzy. "Help him." Mercy blinked. "Why?" "Because we end it different," Sachin said. Mercy crawled to the lip, grabbed Clay's wrist. "Stop thrashing. Breathe." He spit at her. She didn't blink. "You're heavier than you think," she said, and hauled. Bullets chewed the pole. The tent sighed. "Now," Boone said. Judge ours with me? 10 knots? Tail? Hallie grabbed Eli's shoulder. You lead? They slid back through the slit and into the creek's half-dark again. The sheriff stayed in the gap, body a door with a heartbeat. Sheriff, Eli said. Go, the sheriff said. Make it law. They moved along the shelf, water cold, breath hot. Hallie hunched the Bible inside his coat like a good sin. Mercy kept one hand on Sachin's elbow, the other on the canvas-torn edge where men might grab. A bugle wailed behind. Company men hit the water. Boots slipped. Rifles dipped. The shelf turned the brave into careful. Boone pointed with his barrel. Up that route. Then the mesquite slide. Then the wagon cut. 10 knots whispered. Riders in the cut. Whose? Hallie asked. Not King. Not company. 10 knots said. He listened with his bones. Town. A dozen riders burst from the scrub ahead. Barkeep with a bandage. Ranch wives with shotguns. Sloan with his cold eyes. And the kid from the bell rope holding a length of the very rope like a banner. Sheriff sent us, Sloan called. We heard the bell in our heads. Boone grinned. About time. The ranch wives swung down without being asked. One took Sachin's weight. Lean. I can walk, Sachin lied. You can lean, the woman said. And still be proud. Eli looked back once. The sheriff still filled the canvas mouth, steady as a post in flood. Boone saw the look and shook his head. Don't you make it your last sight. Company shots cracked again. A ball kissed Eli's sleeve. He flinched. Sloan returned one clean round. A hat flew. Keep moving, Sloan said. They reached the wagon cut. 2 old freight wagons sat crosswise. Axles sunk, ready to be shoved. Boone nodded. Block and run. They heaved. Wheels groaned. Wood slid. The path narrowed to a mule's width. Hallie wheezed. When this is over, I ride a desk. Not yet, Eli said. A horn blared from the east. Deep. Military. Not hired. A fresh dust column rolled in at ground-eating speed. Boone squinted. That's no company, that's blue. Army? Mercy asked. Army, Boone said. Real one. The cattle king lifted his hat to shade his eyes. Even he looked unsure. The blue column split at the cottonwoods with drill-ground grace. A standard rippled. An officer stood in his stirrups, voice carried by wind and training. By order of the territorial governor, cease fire. The company captain hesitated. The levy gun crew hesitated. Even the king's jaw paused on a word. Sachin sagged into the ranch wife's arms. Saved? Maybe, Mercy said. Once. The blue officer rode forward between lines, calm, tall. He looked at the torn tent, the creek shelf, the militia banner, the cattle king's neat hate. Who has the record? He asked. Hallie lifted his coat. I do. Bring it, the officer said. Boone's eyes narrowed. He smells like paper. Paper isn't all bad, Hallie said. Sometimes it's the only way the day remembers. Eli took one step toward the officer. 10 knots caught his sleeve. Listen. Hooves on stone. Light. Wrong cadence. Above them, on the cliff they'd just left, Clay crawled to one knee, face blood-streaked, eyes mad clear. In his fist, no bottle, no fuse, a derringer. He leveled it, not at Eli, not at Hallie, at Sachin. He smiled, broken and bright. Property. Clay's derringer steadied on Sachin. Eli shouted, Down! Sloan's rifle barked from the wagon cut. 10 knots bow sang from the shelf. Clay flinched, but he fired anyway. The tiny shot cut Sachin's sash. The knot popped. The cloth fluttered. Her body stayed whole. Mercy was already there. Hold still. She caught the ends and cinched once. Hard. Bound! Breathe! The blue officer wheeled his horse. Drop the weapon! Clay's hand shook. The derringer clattered on rock. He laughed, breathless. Still marked. Sachin met his eyes. Not yours. The cattle king's voice rolled up the bank. Arrest that boy who shot at my son. The officer didn't look at him. Sergeant, take the man with the derringer, gentle hands. He bleeds pride. 2 troopers scrambled up. Clay snarled and kicked like a trapped fox. They pinned him without ceremony. Eli stepped between Sachin and everyone else. Back off, Mercy retied the sash with neat, quick fingers. "You have a talent for attracting bullets, child." "Then keep stitching," Sachin said. Below, the levy gun crews froze under the army's raised palm. The blue column held a perfect stillness that made company men look sloppy by accident. The officer lifted his voice. "All fires out, all barrels down. Court will proceed under protection of the territorial army." He turned to Hallie. "Your bench, Judge." Hallie nodded once, wet, tired. "Thank you." The Cattle King spurred 2 steps closer, smile thin. "You outrank cattle." "I outrank gunfire," the officer said. "Try me." The clerk, pale and eager, edged toward Hallie's crate. His fingers crept for the Bible. "Don't," Mercy said, not looking. The scissors glinted in her palm like a small patient law. The clerk froze. "I only meant—" "You meant to smudge," Mercy said. "I mend. I see hands." 10 knots arrowhead touched air near the clerk's ear. "Move and you wear a new earring." Hallie opened the Bible. He held the ghosted map beside the cloth. "Survey hook matches. River deviation past the king's fence. Theft shown on both." "Forgery," the king said again. "Bring your surveyor," Hallie said. Under oath, a courier pounded in from the east, dust-white and breathless. He saluted the officer, then Hallie, then shoved a sealed packet into the judge's hand. From the governor. Nightwire. Hallie broke the seal, scanned. His mouth ticked. "Record reflects. Receiver authority in this county is suspended pending inquiry into misconduct and unlawful force. Court jurisdiction affirmed. Military protects witnesses, not assets." Whispers rippled. The company captain's jaw went tight. The king's eyes narrowed to coins. Sloane let out one thin breath. About time. The weary sheriff limped up from the creek mouth, soot on his cheek, one sleeve torn. He touched the brim at the officer. "Thanks for the quiet." "Hold it," the officer said. "You kept it alive till we got here." Hallie raised his hand. "Testimony continues. Sachin, if you can." "I can," she said. She stood on the crate again, Mercy's palm steady at her back. The officer faced the lines. "Any man aiming at that woman now aims at me." The Cattle King's lip curled. "This circus is court," Hallie said. Sachin spoke, voice low and iron. He carved a mark where men don't look. He paid a surveyor to move ink. He moved the river with ditches in the night. He bought rope with paper and called it order. I bled to show both lines. I don't belong to a fence. The ranch wives murmured. "Amen." Boone grunted, satisfied. 10 knots bow lowered a finger. Hallie nodded. "Entered?" The clerk tried again. Fingers inched toward the leather. Mercy's scissors tapped his knuckle. "Are you here with your skin now?" He yanked his hand back, color climbing his neck. The company captain cleared his throat. "Judge, with respect, this is irregular." "So was last night," Hallie said. The officer added, mild, "And yet here we are." The king's gaze slid sideways to his sergeant, a tiny tilt of his chin. Not an order, a habit. Sachin saw it. "Watch the cottonwoods," she said. 10 knots head shifted. "Left bank." "Losai," a glint winked inside shade, mirror on a stick. Boone swore. "Signal." The officer barked, "Stand to." Blue shifted without noise. Rifles came to hips. No one fired. Eli leaned to Sachin. "Water?" She sipped. "Good." Care done. Threat returned. A faint groan rose from the north. Not guns, not hooves. A belly noise from the world. Mercy frowned. "You hear that?" 10 knots put his palm to the ground. Upstream. Boone's eyes narrowed. "Damn." The Cattle King smiled with all his teeth. "For irrigation, Your Honor." Hallie's head snapped. "Break it. Open it," the king said. "Water's free." Sloane spat dust. "To wash us out." The groan thickened. Pebbles jittered. The creek's skim became a run, then a chesty hum. Men looked at their boots. The officer wheeled. "Who controls that gate?" The king said nothing. He didn't have to. Hallie folded the Bible around the cloth. He pushed it into Eli's chest. "Higher ground? Now?" Eli grabbed Sachin's hand. "With me." Mercy scooped her bag and kept the scissors in the other. "Don't trip me." Boone snapped orders. "Militia, Rope the judge. Pull him if he slips. Sloane tossed the bell rope coil. Use this. It already knows the job. Blue troopers pivoted to the banks without panic. The officer's voice stayed level. Company captain, lend your men to rescue or I'll hang you on paperwork alone. The captain hesitated one breath. You heard him. Lines for pull. The first tongue of flood nosed the bend, brown, foaming, decorated with branches and a dead fence post stamped with a familiar brand. Sachin stared. He'll drown his own mark. Mercy's mouth tightened. Men like him always think they can buy it back. The swell hit the shelf. Cold climbed shins to knees to thighs in a single gasp. The court tent heaved, poles groaning. Hallie clung to the crate and kept the Bible high. Move! The sheriff shouted. They scrambled for the mesquite slide. Eli shoved Sachin ahead. Boone planted to yank Hallie up the root ladder. Sloane anchored the rope like it was the church again. The clerk tried to use the chaos, lunging at Eli's bundle. Mercy's scissors kissed his wrist, fast. He yelped and let go. No, Mercy said. Last warning. 10 knots grabbed the clerk's collar and pushed him into a blue trooper's grip. Your hands shake. Hold a shovel. The flood punched the tent. Canvas tore free and sailed like a dying gull. The levee gun crews bolted uphill. Company lines broke and reformed. Surprised men suddenly human. The officer shouted over the roar, King, call your damn shut! The cattle king watched the water with a lover's look. He didn't move. Nature moves, he said. Boone's face went granite. Hang him after, he muttered, and hauled. Eli slipped. Sachin caught his sleeve with both hands. Up! He found the root again. Thanks. We take turns, she said. Hallie's boot missed and found Sloane's shin. Sloane didn't curse. He grunted. Climb, Judge. They clawed onto the shelf above the floodline. Below, the tent's crate bobbed once and vanished. The Bible, safe in Eli's arms, dripped but held. Mercy wrapped it in her shawl without asking. The officer faced the king across a river made mean by men. Last time closed the gate. The king lifted his hat and set it back. Slow. You can't order weather, Hallie wheezed, soaked but standing. But I can order men. He pointed at the blue sergeant. Take a squad, ride the spillway, close it. The officer didn't hesitate. You heard the judge. Troopers spurred for the north bank, rope coils bouncing. Boone's militia fell in. 10 knots whistled. 2 hunters ghosted after them like thought. Sachin leaned on Eli a second longer than pride liked. Mercy didn't comment. She checked the sash, checked her eyes, checked her pulse. You still with us? Still loud, Sachin said. A new sound cut the flood. A slow clap. Clay, handcuffed, hair matted, stood between 2 troopers and smiled with blood in his teeth. Make it bigger, father. The king didn't look at him. He looked at the officer. Arrest the judge. Blue didn't move. He looked at Hallie. You'll drown in that book. Hallie nodded at Eli's chest. Not today. The flood swelled again, higher, faster. A log spun and lunged toward the shelf where the town riders clustered. The kid with the bell rope froze. Rope! Sloane barked. Eli threw the loose end. The kid caught. Sloane rapped and leaned. The log slammed the bank below their boots and ripped free, scraping bark and pride. The boy laughed once. Wild. Still here? Stay that way, Sloane said. The officer shaded his eyes. Upstream, tiny figures fought the gate. A wheel turned a fraction. The roar changed pitch. Lower, angrier, but maybe enough. Hold, the officer said. The king's face went cold marble. He flicked fingers at a waiting man in a dark coat you'd miss if you weren't looking. Mercy saw him. Knife, she whispered. The dark coat slid along the rocks toward Eli's back. Hand low, small blade ready to cut the Bible free. 10 knots didn't aim. He looked. He breathed. He let string go. The arrow pinned the dark coat's sleeve to the rock and kissed skin enough to make the hand drop the knife. Eli spun. Mercy's scissors flashed, catching the blade by its tip. She smiled. Thin. Wrong tool. Sachin took one breath and raised her voice over the water. All of you, look. Faces turned without meaning to. She pointed at the far bank where the spillway crew wrestled the wheel. That gate holds because men pull together, not because one man owns the river. Hallie's chin lifted. Entered. The officer's sergeant waved from the gate, 2 hands up, then a circle. The wheel moved. The roar eased a hair. Relief touched edges, not middle. The king's jaw worked. He leaned to the clerk. He murmured one word. "Fire." The clerk went white. "Sir." "Fire," the king repeated. From the cottonwoods, a hired hand obeyed an old habit faster than new orders. He struck a match for a hidden fuse bundle tucked in a root ball, last contingency wired to posts no one had noticed. 10 Knot's head snapped. "New hiss," Boone cursed. "Not again." The match kissed twine. The root ball coughed flame. And under the shelf where the town riders stood, a buried line began to chew toward a powder keg that the flood had not yet found. The dam is finally starting to close. But the Cattle King's hidden fuse lights. A buried charge under the shelf, where the townsfolk and the Bible map are clustered, begins to hiss toward powder. One more man-made flood, this time of fire. The hiss thickened underfoot. Not water. Powder. Boone's face drained. "Fuse!" 10 Knots barked. "Down!" Sloane shoved the boy with the bell rope flat. Mercy's eyes snapped to Eli. "The Bible!" He clutched it tighter. "Still here!" Sachin staggered, clutching her sash. "Where?" 10 Knots pointed at the bank. "Under, old root ball, king's trick." The officer's eyes narrowed. "Diffuse it." "Or we scatter," Boone said. "No," Eli said. "We lose the record if we scatter." Sachin leaned on him. "Then cut it." "With what?" he asked. Mercy lifted her scissors. Wrong tool, right time. They dropped to their knees. The hiss chewed louder. Smoke licked through cracks in stone. Boone barked orders. "Riders, bucket line, blue, sand, now." The Cattle King watched, arms folded. Cold smile. "You can't dam fire." The officer glared. "You'll hang for this." "I'll buy rope too," the king said. 10 Knots slid into the fissure, shoulders wedged. "Short." 20 heartbeats. "Then cut it now," Boone snapped. Mercy pushed forward, scissors steady. "Guide me." 10 Knots grunted. "Here." She slid the blades under a black-spitting cord. Heat kissed her knuckles. Eli grabbed her wrist. "You'll burn." "Better me than Alton," Mercy said. She squeezed. The blade snapped. The hiss died. Smoke curled out like a sigh. For one breath, silence lived. Then a pop. Another. 3 more cords hissed awake under different rocks. Boone swore. "Clustered charges." The officer drew his saber. "Find them." Sachin's knees buckled. Eli caught her. "Sit." "No," she said. "Show me." He frowned. "What can you—" "Smoke rises where cords run," she said. "I saw it in barns. Fire always shows itself." They scanned. 3 thin smokes curled from cracks. Left, right, behind. "Split," Boone said. "No time," 10 Knots said. "Then double," Eli said. He yanked his belt, wrapped it on his knife, crawled left. 10 Knots dove right. Mercy shoved her scissors into Sachin's hand. "Cut straight. Don't hesitate." Sachin blinked. "Why me?" "Because you won't stop," Mercy said. Eli's cord spat sparks. He pressed his knife flat and sawed. The fuse fought. He cursed. "Help!" The boy with the rope dropped beside him, slapped his palm over sparks. Skin sizzled. He didn't flinch. "Cut!" Eli severed. The hiss died. The boy smiled, teeth white. Still here. 10 Knots stomped his cord with wet leather. It spat, screamed, then died. He grunted once. 2. Sachin crawled on her belly, scissors clenched, following smoke near the root. The cord writhed. Her breath shook. She pinched it with both hands and cut. Flame nipped her palm. She hissed, but held. Sparks went out. Mercy yanked her back by the sash. "Enough!" Sachin held up the blackened ends. "Done!" The ground trembled once, but no boom came. Boone exhaled. "Alive!" The officer faced the king. "Last chance. Order your men to stand down." The king spread his hands. "I ordered nothing. Roots burn themselves." Hallie's voice cracked sharp. "On record. Deliberate sabotage by Cattle King, treason to court." The king sneered. "Paper again." Hallie straightened. "And witness again." He pointed to Sachin's burnt palm, the boy's blistered hand, Mercy's scorched scissors, more than ink. Company men shifted uneasily. Even the levee crew looked at their boots. Clay, half-bound, laughed thin. "My father doesn't lose." "Watch him," Boone said. The officer raised his saber. "Blue holds the court. Militia anchors right. Town anchors left. We push them out." The Cattle King's eyes flashed. "Then we burn together." He whistled once, sharp. A hidden rider burst from mesquite with a keg slung under his arm, fuse already lit. "New bomb!" Sloan roared. 10 knots loosed. The rider toppled, but the keg rolled, hissing, straight toward the shelf where the Bible lay. Eli dove. "No!" Sachin cried. "Eli!" He caught the keg against his chest. Heat bit. Fuse spat near his ear. Mercy screamed, "Throw it!" "I can't," Eli gasped. "It'll hit the crowd." He clutched it tighter. He could feel the powder shift, heavy as sin. The officer shouted, "Bucket!" Too far. Sachin lurched, hands out. "Give it." "No," Eli said. "Yes," she said. "Together." They pressed it between them, back to back, pinning fuse against wet shawl. Mercy slapped scissors down and cut the spit end. Smoke coughed once, then went dark. The keg sagged dead. They dropped it, both shaking. Eli's shirt smoldered. Sachin's sash smoked. Mercy beat it out with her shawl. Silence again. Then rifles cracked from the ridge. Not company, not militia. Clean volley. Blue troopers staggered. Boone spun. "Who fires?" 10 knots snarled. "Hired guns. Far side." The king smiled. "I pay more pockets than you can sew." The officer barked, "Shields up." Blue knelt, raising carbines. Militia mirrored. The court huddled behind crates and stones. Eli pressed his forehead to Sachin's. "Still with me?" "Still loud," she whispered. Mercy bound their hands quick with linen. "No more burns." Hallie lifted the Bible high. "Record stands. Theft proved. Witness alive. Army present." The king pointed, "Calm. Then kill the witnesses." Another volley cracked. A blue trooper fell. Sloan hissed through his teeth. "We'll be pinned." The officer's jaw set. "Unless we charge—" "With what?" Boone asked. "With truth," Hallie said. His voice shook, but he stood. "Truth in ink, truth in scars, truth in blood." The officer lifted his saber. "Form line." Eli looked at Sachin. "We move or we die here." "Then we move," she said. They braced. Boone chambered. 10 knots drew. Sloan spat dust. Mercy kept scissors tight. The weary sheriff limped up, Colt in both hands, grin ragged. "Thought you'd leave me?" "Never," Eli said. The officer shouted, "Advance!" Boots thundered, guns barked. The flood still raged below. Smoke smeared the dawn, and on the far ridge hidden barrels gleamed, 2 Gatlings, cranked by shadows ready to mow the whole field. The fuses cut, the keg disarmed, the court still intact. But now hidden Gatling guns swivel from the ridge, threatening to shred army, militia, townsfolk, judge, and witnesses in a storm of lead. The twin Gatlings tilted like wolf heads. Mercy pressed a cool cloth to Sachin's neck. "Sip." Sachin obeyed. "I'm steady." Eli checked the shawl around the Bible. "Still dry." Hallie nodded once. "Keep it that way." 10 knots squinted at the ridge. "Crews there. 2 belts, high tripod, bad angle low." Boone grunted. "Can't depress close." "Then we get close," Sloan said. The officer lifted his voice. "Blue, break by pairs. Crawl to the bank. Stay under." Boone added, "Militia with them." "Town holds the judge." The Cattle King called sweetly, "Or you can stand tall and save time." Nobody answered. A faint whir. The first Gatling tested. A brass tinkle followed. Boone's mustache jumped. "Belts loaded." Mercy tightened Sachin's knot. "You breathe through pain." Sachin nodded. "I learned." 10 knots touched Eli's sleeve. "Bone whistle." Eli pulled it free. "Now." "Now," 10 knots said. Eli blew low, long. The note seemed to vanish. Then a faint answer came from higher stone. 2 clicks, like pebbles kissing. "Hunters," Sachin breathed. The officer pointed. Smoke, Sloan blinked. From what? Wet canvas, the officer said. Damp hay, slow burn. Boone jerked his chin. Do it. Ranch wives dragged tarps to the creek edge, dunked, hauled and flopped them over mesquite. Sloan struck a match, then blew it out, then coaxed the smallest smolder. White smoke lifted in sheets. Move under it, the officer said. Go. Blue and militia slid forward, bellies in mud, smoke shrouding them. Brass whirred again above. The guns hesitated, hunting shapes, finding fog. The Cattle King's mouth thinned. Fire anyway. One crew obeyed. The nearest Gatling chattered a short, ugly prayer. Bullets scissored smoke. Chewed reeds, stitched empty water. No screams, not yet. Boone shoved the free banner into Eli's hands. Up with you. Eli frowned. What? Blind them with belief, Boone said. He grabbed the other pole. Run behind it. They lifted the ragged word between them and trotted, crouched. The cloth a moving wall. Holes punched through it. Still here, Boone said, teeth showing. Still here, Eli echoed. 10 knots ghosted ahead, staying in the gun's dead zone. Foot of the path, he hissed. There. A goat trail, mean as a rumor, zigzagged to the gun nests. Sloan tapped Eli's arm. Give me the pole. Eli handed it off. Watch your head. I keep it because it's ugly, Sloan said. Sachin pushed to stand. Mercy blocked her. No. I climb, Sachin said. You bleed, Mercy said. After, Sachin said, and slipped past. Eli reached back. Hold my belt. She gripped. Don't fall. I won't, he said. He probably lied. The second Gatling spun, then stopped, then spun again. A crewman cursed and banged a cover. Boone's eyes sparked. Dust jam, thank God. The officer crawled beside the sheriff. On my mark, we rush the base. The sheriff smiled, thin. Been rushing bases all my life. The first Gatling found a trooper's boot and shredded leather only. The man yelped, then grinned, shocked to still exist. Keep low, the officer said, calm as a schoolmaster. 10 knots pointed at the trail. Hands and knees. Don't grab loose rock. Eli nodded. Loose rock is all I see. Find the stubborn ones, 10 knots said. They climbed. Pebbles hissed down. The gun's whir swelled, faded, swelled again. Halfway up, Sachin's breath hit a wall. She folded, then forced it open. Mercy below. Quiet. Count 4. Breathe on the third. Sachin did. It worked. Thank you. Don't make me say you're welcome, Mercy said. At the nest lip, voices, company men, nervous, hungry. Belt fouled. Clear it. Use your teeth. Shut up. 10 knots took a pebble, flicked it right. It clattered. A gunner turned his head. Eli rose, quick, and hooked fingers over the parapet. A boot stomped his knuckles. Pain burst white. Sachin grabbed his wrist and anchored him. Up! He snarled and surged. Up! He and 10 knots spilled into the nest. A gunner swung a spanner. Eli ducked. 10 knots bumped the barrel with his shoulder. The muzzle slewed sky and spat useless hate. Belt? Eli barked. I see it, 10 knots said. He yanked the feed down and twisted. Brass vomited. The crank spun air. A second gunner drew a knife. Sachin met him. No. He slashed. She let the slash pass empty and drove her forehead into his nose. He crumpled, shocked at the world's rudeness. Eli ripped the cover off. Wire! 10 knots grinned. Always. Eli pulled the telegraph spool from his coat. He looped it over the crank hub and axles. Pull. 10 knots hauled. Wire squealed. The Gatling seized. Down! 10 knots snapped. They dropped as a desperate crewman blind-fired a revolver. Splinters hopped. No blood. First gun dead, Eli gasped. Below, Boone heard and whooped. One! The second Gatling found its voice. Steady now, evil sowing. It swept the smoke edge. A blue trooper jerked and lay still. Hallie flinched, then firmed. Record reflects fallen under fire. Names noted. The officer's jaw cut. Take that second nest. Sloan shoved the free banner into the sheriff's hands and sprinted for the path with 2 militia. With me! The Cattle King's face never changed. He murmured to his dark coat man. The man nodded and vanished along a lower ledge. At the second nest lip, a company gunner grinned down at Eli. "Cute trick with wire," Eli panted. "Try it." "Rather try this," the gunner said, and kicked a crate into the trail. Rocks danced. 2 militia slid and scrabbled. Sloane's hand shot out and caught a collar. "Up?" "Thanks," the man breathed. "Don't thank me," Sloane said. "Climb." Sachin squinted at the belt box. "Wet it." "How?" Eli asked. Mercy's voice floated up from below. "Use my shawl, you thieves." Eli laughed once. Wild. "Permission noted." He flung the shawl over the feed. The belt slurped, slipped, then bit again. "Not enough," Sachin said. 10 knots crabbed left, found the nest's rear brace, and cut a wedge of rope. "Anchor." "Bell rope," Eli said. "Little cousin," 10 knots said. They lashed the brace to a juniper stump and heaved. The tripod skidded 2 inches. The muzzle walked off the smoke line and stitched harmless sky. The crew cursed and shoved back. Sloane rolled into the nest like a bad idea realized. He slammed a carbine butt into a gunner's ear. The man slept. Sloane looked at the crank. "I hate gears." He jammed a penny into the teeth. Metal squealed. Teeth met copper and choked. "Down!" 10 knots barked again. The last crewman fired a snub. The round buzzed past Eli's ear. He tasted iron. Sachin lunged and kicked the man's wrist. The snub fell. Mercy's scissors, how had she climbed this far? Flashed and skated the pistol away. "Wrong tool," she said, breathless. "Right job." The Gatling coughed, hiccuped, stopped. "Two!" Boone yelled below. Silence didn't fall. It changed shape. Rifles, shouts, the river's angry hymn. The officer stood, shoulders square. "Company captain, lower weapons. Court stands." The captain looked at the king. The king looked at the ground, then at Blue, then at Halley's raised Bible. He said nothing. From the cottonwoods, a scream, high, sudden. Clay again, hauled off his feet by troopers when he tried to bite. He laughed through blood. "Paper wins, not while father breathes." The king lifted his hat 1 inch and set it back. "Son, hush." 10 knots touched Eli's shoulder. "Look." On the far ridge, 3 riders appeared. Governor's aides in black frock coats, faces pinched from no sleep. One lifted a white envelope. The officer rode to meet them. Halley breathed out. "Do we live?" Mercy answered for the world. "For the next minute." Boone scanned lower ledges. "Where's Darkcoat?" Sloane swore softly. "Gone." Sachin steadied on Eli. "It's not finished." "No," he said. The officer tore the governor's envelope. He read fast. His face changed twice. He turned and raised it high. "By executive order, Riverworks frozen, receiver stripped, writs void until audit. Court to remove to Capitol with witnesses under guard." A shaky cheer, then real. The Cattle King's eyes went cold coin. "We appeal." "You can," Halley said, from a smaller chair. The officer pointed at the king. "Holster, then walk, not ride." Gasps. The king's jaw bunched. He unbuckled with winter slowness, handed his revolver to a blue sergeant, and stepped down. Sachin's shoulders sagged. "Done?" 10 knots' head tilted. "No." A dry click behind them. Eli turned. Darkcoat stood 10 paces off on the nest's back shelf, hat low, coat open enough to show a last snake-quiet derringer. His eyes were calm, too calm. He wasn't aiming at Sachin, not at Eli, at Mercy's shawl-wrapped Bible. He smiled a little. Fire didn't eat it. Water didn't drown it. Let the wind lose it. He flicked his wrist and snapped the shot. The derringer cracked. Leather spat. Pages fluttered. Eli lunged. His palm smacked the shawl-wrapped Bible before it toppled. He clutched it to his chest, heart hammering. Mercy grabbed his shoulder. "Still there?" He opened the shawl. The Bible's spine was dented. A hole burrowed halfway through, but the map page still clung, ghosted ink intact. "Alive," Eli panted. Darkcoat's lips curved. "Then I reload." 10 knots' bow thrummed. The arrow split his sleeve, pinned wrist to stone. The derringer spun away, clattering into sage. Darkcoat didn't flinch. He leaned closer. Whisper quiet. Law forgets quick. Sachin stepped forward, voice sharp as flint. Not this law. The officer's saber flashed. Seize him. Two troopers closed, shackling dark coat without gentleness. He let them. His smile stayed. Boone spat. Snakes got more holes to crawl. Hallie steadied himself on the crate. Record reflects. Attempted destruction of evidence by Cattle King's agent. Witnesses stopped it. The Cattle King's eyes narrowed. You think words bind me? Hallie raised the Bible, whole and all. Not words. Holes where bullets tried and failed. The king's jaw twitched once. He looked at Clay, bloody, bound, still grinning, and then at the ground. Mercy touched Sachin's bandaged waist. Stitch held. Sachin exhaled. So will I. The officer wheeled his horse. Troopers, escort the judge and witnesses to the capital. Militia holds the ground till relieved. Boone nodded. We'll hold. Sloan grinned like a man who finally saw a debt paid. Eli adjusted the shawl around the Bible. You walk beside me, he told Sachin. She smiled, tired. Not behind, beside. The weary sheriff limped up the slope. Blood dried at his temple. He looked at his son. You kept it. Eli met his eyes. We all did. The sheriff clapped his shoulder once, hard, proud. The officer snapped orders. Blue lines shifted clean. Hallie stepped between, robes torn, voice steady. Court adjourns in field, reopens in capital. The Cattle King barked a laugh. You'll never make it alive. Hallie met his gaze. Then my ghost testifies. The king lunged, but two troopers forced him back, shackled like his son. Clay spat blood and grinned. Still mine, father. The king said nothing. Sachin swayed. Eli caught her. Mercy pressed honey to her lips. Sweet keeps breath. She swallowed. Better. 10 knots scanned the ridge. More men may wait. Boone answered. Let them. We've guns enough. The officer raised his hand. Column, forward. They began the march. Eli, Sachin, Mercy, Hallie under guard, sheriff beside, Boone's militia shadowing. Dust rose. Behind, the flood receded with a groan, like the land itself giving up. For the first time, the king looked small, shackled, silent. Sachin leaned on Eli, eyes fierce even through pain. Not property. Never, he said. Mercy smiled thin. Loud, stubborn, alive. Best kind of witness. The sun cleared the ridge. Guns quieted. The word free on the torn banner still moved in wind. But as they rounded the cut, 10 knots raised his palm. Halt! Everyone froze. He crouched, pressed his ear to stone, his voice dropped. Powder scent, more charges buried. Boone's face darkened. Damn snakes planted the whole pass. The officer's jaw set. Can you cut them? Maybe, 10 knots said. Hallie exhaled. How many more times will we fight the same fire? Sachin's hand tightened on Eli's, until paper is stronger than powder. Eli swallowed. He looked at the Bible, whole through its spine, and then at her. Then we keep walking. The officer lifted his saber. Forward, but careful. We step through his minefield and carry the truth out. The column moved again, slower, wary. Behind them, the Cattle King's laughter drifted faint as chains rattled. The land remembers me longer than your ink. Sachin didn't look back. Not this land. The king and his son shackled, the map intact but scarred. The column marches for the capital, only to discover the pass is mined with more hidden charges. One wrong step, and truth itself could vanish in fire before it ever reaches the governor's desk. 10 knots sank to one knee, powder in seams, many, not deep. Boone's brow furrowed. Trip or plunger? Both, 10 knots said. He touched rock. Hear that? Hollow box. The officer scanned the ridge. Sappers forward. We are the sappers, Sloan said. Mercy tightened Sachin's sash, quick hands firm. Breathe with me. 4 in, 2 out. I can walk, Sachin said. You can, Mercy answered. You will. Hallie lifted the Bible with its bullet-bitten spine. Keep eyes on the ground. I will keep the record. The Cattle King watched, shackled, calm as a ledger. You'll write until the mountain erases you. Clay smiled through blood. Boom writes faster. "Shut him," the officer said. Troopers gagged Clay without ceremony. 10 knots pointed with his chin. "See those 3 stone piles?" "Cairns," Eli said. "Plunger hides in one," 10 knots said. "Trunk line in all?" Boone grunted. "Pick one. Left," 10 knots said. "Smells wrong." They moved, slow. The bell rope boy lay flat and slid the coil ahead, feeling for Hiss. He hissed himself when sparks tickled his knuckles. "Here." Eli crouched. Fuse under thin rock. He raised his knife. Mercy caught his wrist. Wet first. She poured canteen water over the seam. Smoke turned to bubbles. "Now," he sawed. "Tight line." "Cut," 10 knots murmured. The cord parted. The hiss died. Boone nodded once. "One snake head off." The officer scanned the rim. "Where's the box?" 10 knots listened again. "Middle cairn." Sloan levered a flat stone. A wood lid showed, stained dark. "Blasting battery. Old kind." Boone spat. "Plunger on a spring." Eli swallowed. "Who's got steady hands?" Mercy lifted her scissors. "I've stitched in wagons." "Let him," Sachin said, nodding at Eli. "He already holds the book." Mercy met Eli's eyes. "You cut, I talk. Do as I say." "Fine," he breathed. She pointed. "Blade under the latch. Don't pry. Lift. Smile at it." He slid steel like it was a secret. The latch clicked. The lid eased. Inside, a brass plunger with a crossbar, springs cocked, waxed cord tied to a hook, a trunk line braided 3 ways. Mercy's voice dropped. "Tie it open." Sloan fed her a leather thong. She looped the crossbar and cinched it to the box hinge. "Now if someone stumbles, it still thinks it's asleep." "Trunk?" Eli asked. 10 knots traced the 3 fuses with a fingertip. Left to shelf, right to ridge, middle to king. The cattle king smiled without teeth. "Why would I wire myself?" "To stand where no one doubts," Hallie said, flat. Boone grunted. "Cut the king's line first." Mercy pressed down on the plunger to take strain. "Now." Eli nicked the middle cord. It flared. He smothered it with a wet rag. "Done." "Right," 10 knots said. Eli cut the right cord. Smoke sighed. "Left," Mercy said. Eli reached. A shadow moved where shadow shouldn't. Darkcoat's partner, another thin man in a city vest, slipped from scrub, a rock in both hands. He brought it down for Eli's skull. Sachin moved first. "No." Her forearm took the blow. Pain flashed her eyes, but she didn't fold. 10 knots bow thrummed. The man's hat flew, pinned to a juniper. He ran. Boone didn't chase. He had more snakes to mind. "Finish," Mercy said. Eli sliced the last cord. The box quieted as if it had stopped listening. Boone pointed downhill. "Shelf line. Secondary fuses. We're not done." The officer raised his saber. "Blue. Stretch line. 20 paces apart. Probe with poles." "Use the rope," Sloan said. The bell rope boy grinned. "It wants this job." He and 2 ranch wives slid the coil along the ground, tapping, listening, feeling with feet and hands. "Here," the boy said. "Tiny hiss." Mercy squinted. "Sunglass." She pointed at a glint tucked in the rocks. A bottle lens on a forked twig, aiming light at a black cord that wouldn't burn until noon kissed it. "Clever," Boone said. "Cruel," Sachin said. Eli plucked the twig free and crushed the lens under his heel. "No noon for you." 10 knots sniffed. More. They found another. And another. Tiny suns waiting to be patient. Mercy broke each with the same neat click of her scissors. The cattle king tilted his head at Hallie. "Right quicker." Hallie didn't look up. "I am," a trooper shouted from the spillway. "Gates closing." The river dropped half a hand. The roar softened. "Good," the officer called. "Not good enough," the king said, almost bored. The ground under the town riders ticked, a different sound. Metal teeth. 10 knots went still. "Pressure plate." "Where?" Boone asked. The boy with the rope froze. "Under my boot." Nobody breathed. "Don't move," Mercy said, voice small but iron. The boy's lip trembled. He tried to laugh and couldn't. "Still here," he whispered. Eli crawled beside him. "What do you feel?" "Spring," the boy breathed. "Hungry?" Mercy slid the scissors into the seam by his heel. If I wedge it? It might yawn wider, 10 knots said. Counterweight, Boone said. He grabbed a sack of wet sand and eased it onto the plate edge. The boy shut his eyes. Feels lighter. Now lift, Mercy said. Slow. He lifted. The plate didn't bite. Eli slipped a rock under one lip. Sloane slid a chisel. 10 knots added a flat bone. The plate rested on 3 little truths. Out, Mercy breathed. The boy slid his foot free. He cried once, silent. Boone slapped his shoulder. Still here? Still here, the kid said, and almost smiled. The officer took in the pass, the cut lines, the broken lenses, the caged plunger, the boys with rope, the women with buckets, the hunter with a bow, and nodded like a man counting living things. Column moves, slow. We step where they step. They inched forward. Hallie walked with the Bible close. The sheriff stayed astride from Eli. Mercy hovered by Sachin and didn't pretend to be anywhere else. Boone covered the king with a look that didn't blink. At the last bend, the pass narrowed to 2 shoulders of stone and a throat of gravel. 10 knots, stopped. Hear that? Eli tried. He heard wind, water, his own fear. Clock, 10 knots said. The cattle king's mouth bent into something that wasn't quite a smile. Wind up. Where? Boone asked. The king looked at his boots. Under him, Sachin said. The officer waved 2 troopers. They hauled the king a pace aside. At his feet, half buried, a small tin device ticked with patient joy. A ratchet pinned a spring that wanted release. Its beak kissed an oiled wick. In 30 breaths, the beak would peck and the wick would catch. Hallie's jaw set. Who designed this? The king's eyes went far and young and hard. My father's foreman. I kept the toys. Mercy's hands moved before anyone spoke. She lifted the tin, turned it, thumbscrew, backwards thread. Break it, Boone said. No, Mercy said. Wind makes it angrier. She reversed the twist. The tick slowed. Slower. Stopped. Everyone heard the silence it left. Sachin exhaled. The tin still kissed the wick. Mercy looked at Eli. Bite it off, she said. He blinked. What? She jammed the oiled thread into his palm. Teeth. Down he bit, copper and oil. He spat the bitten end. Sachin stamped it dead. Done, Mercy said, voices in her hands suddenly shaking. She hid them. Go. They moved again, finding stubborn stones, stepping like cats across a room of sleeping bottles. At the throat, the last cairn waited, neat, smug. No wires showed, no hiss sounded, just a small brass knob on a post beside it, polished by a glove. The officer stared. Manual. The king lifted his chin. One turn and the whole pass becomes sky. Boone cocked his rifle. Whose glove turns it? Clay made a muffled laugh. Even bound, he tilted his head toward Hallie, toward the Bible, toward the world. His eyes shone like a bad coin under lamplight. Don't look at me, Hallie said. I write, I don't turn. 10 knots pressed his ear to the cairn. Trick in the stone. Eli stepped closer. What kind? Counter pull, 10 knots said. Turn here, ignite there. Where? The officer asked. 10 knots pointed at a shadowed seam under the far shoulder. Beneath the narrow ledge the column must cross to leave. Under you. Boone's mouth thinned. If we touch the knob, we light our feet. Mercy folded her arms. Then we don't touch it. Or we touch it like it wants to be fooled, Sachin said. Eli frowned. How? Rope, Sloane said. Everyone looked at him. He shrugged. Bell taught me. Pull wrong end and it still rings. Tie one truth to another. Boone's eyes sparked. We wrap the knob and pull it toward a dead fuse while someone cuts the live one. 10 knots nodded. Need 2 hands at once. Eli and Sachin stepped forward together. Mercy blocked them. Not you both. Sachin's stare didn't move. Us both. The officer looked at their faces, then at the pass, then at the king whose eyes finally held something like fear. Do it, the officer said. Boone, cover, Sloane, rope. 10 knots, cut. Sloane looped the bell rope around the brass knob and ran it back to a scrub root. When I say, 10 knots crawled to the shadowed seam with his knife between his teeth. He touched the powder trace with a wet finger. It hissed like a cat and went silent where he had been. Ready, he whispered. Eli took the rope in both hands. Sachin set her burnt palms over his. Mercy stood between them and the king, scissors ready, as if she could cut air if needed. On 3, Sloane said. 1. 2, Boone echoed. Clay's gag muffled a laugh that carried like a curse. 3, Sloane said. Eli and Sachin hauled. The knob turned a quarter. Inside the cairn, a spring screamed. Under the ledge, 10 knots knife slid into the main line. He pressed, sure. The powder woke faster than his steel. A spark spat from a hidden splice and leapt across his hand toward the dark under the ledge where the whole shelf held its breath. 10 knots slammed his palm down. The spark bit his skin and kept running. He shoved deeper. Cut! Boone roared. I am... 10 knots said, voice calm as a cold river. But you must pull. More. Eli and Sachin dragged the rope. The knob twisted half. The cairn groaned. Somewhere under the ledge, a secondary line hissed to life that none of them had seen. Mercy saw the smoke finger first. Left seam! She hurled her scissors like a dart. They stuck in the seam, metal singing. The hiss stuttered. The spark forked. One branch died under steel. The other sprinted harder, vanishing under their boots into stone like a snake that had learned to smile. 10 knots looked up, eyes steady. If it reaches the belly, the whole throat goes. How far? The officer asked. 2 heartbeats, 10 knots said. He didn't blink. Maybe 1. The spark raced. 2 heartbeats. 1. 10 knots shoved his scorched palm flat into the seam. His knife drove deeper, teeth clenched. Now, he barked. Eli and Sachin hauled the rope with every shred left. The brass knob screeched, twisted full. The counterpull yanked the spark back into the cairn, where 10 knots' wet hand and Mercy's lodged scissors smothered it. Silence fell like a blow. No boom, no fire, only the rasp of breath. Mercy sagged to her knees, trembling. Still here. Sachin clung to Eli's arm, chest heaving. All of us. 10 knots lifted his charred palm, skin smoking faintly. He almost smiled. Good cut. Hallie's knees gave. He sat in the mud, clutching the Bible to his chest, spine dented, pages singed, still whole. Record stands. The officer raised his saber high. Court preserved. Witnesses preserved. Charges diffused. He turned. Voice steel. Escort to the Capitol. Boone's militia let out the breath of a year. Sloane slapped the boy with the bell rope. Still here, he echoed, rough. The boy grinned through tears. The Cattle King's shoulders finally sagged. Shackled, gagged, he no longer looked like a man who owned rivers. Clay moaned laughter through his gag, but even that sounded smaller. Mercy tied fresh cloth over Sachin's ribs. You walk. I walk, Sachin agreed. Her voice shook, but didn't bend. Eli steadied her. Beside me. She nodded. Never behind. They marched. Past the broken cairns, past the silenced Gatlings, past the flood scars. Every step felt like proof. At the ridgetop, the free banner fluttered ragged but proud. Boone lifted it high. Town wives cheered hoarse. Blue troopers stood straighter. Hallie turned to the gathered. His voice cracked but carried. This court saw paper burned, rope hung, bullets fired, and powder lit. Still, truth lived. Theft shown. Witness free. The officer saluted him. Governor will hear it. The sheriff, battered and limping, touched Eli's arm. You made me proud. Eli swallowed. We all carried it, Sachin added, quiet but fierce. And we'll keep carrying. Hallie closed the Bible, hole through its spine like a scar. Paper remembers, so will we. The Cattle King stared at the ground. For the first time, no words, no smile. Shackles rattled like a confession. Clay muttered against his gag. Mercy leaned close and hissed. Quiet, child. The world already heard too much of you. 10 knots flexed his ruined palm. Boone clasped it once, warrior to warrior. Scar means witness, too. 10 knots nodded. Still loud. The sun climbed higher. Dust rose with the column. Behind them the pass smouldered, broken, but silent. Ahead, the capital waited, with ink and benches and eyes that would have to see. Sachin walked between Eli and Mercy, chin lifted. Not property. Never, Eli said again. His voice didn't shake this time. And the word free on the banner caught the wind like it had always belonged to her. This story reminds us, truth is heavier than powder, louder than rifles, and harder than fire to erase. A girl once branded as property stood before guns and courts to prove she was her own. And the valley itself bore witness that even scars can testify. If this tale moved you, don't forget to subscribe for more stories where courage collides with injustice and wins. And watch our next video. You'll see how another unlikely fight for